Chapter 770. 770 Don't appear too strong. The Sea Clouds sect wins this battle, the judge announced. Only then did Lu Ming and the others get off the stage to welcome the cheers of the Sea Clouds sect members. The other sects looked at the Sea Clouds sect with a hint of solemnity. He didn't care about the others in the Sea Clouds sect, but it would be troublesome if there was an empty one. The competition continued. Lu Ming sat in the stands and focused on refining the blood essence. The blood essence of 3 martial artists at the 3rd level of the spiritual sea realm was too rich. This was the first time Lu Ming had devoured such a rich and powerful blood essence. He had used all the power of his blood essence to improve his second bloodline. He planned to upgrade the prison-suppressing steel bloodline to the divine level first. That way, the power of the prison-suppressing heaven technique would increase greatly, and then, he would upgrade the 9-dragon bloodline. The strong power of blood essence kept flowing into the bloodline of the prison-suppressing steel. Time passed very quickly. Not long after, the first round of the competition was over, and the top 18 had been determined. Those who won were happy because they were one step closer to the top 6. Those who failed would be dejected and lose such a great opportunity. The ruling guild allowed the various major powers to rest for an hour before proceeding with the second round. The second round was still arranged by the referee. The judge seemed to have done it on purpose. The most powerful forces were not arranged together in the beginning. Instead, they were arranged to be separated. This was the only way to appear fair. If those powerful forces met at the beginning, then there would be forces that could strive for the top 6. It would be a little unfair if they were eliminated early. The second round of the competition continued. There were a total of 9 battles for the 18 forces. The Sea Clouds sect was scheduled for the 7th round. At this time, the blood essence in Lu Ming's body was almost fully refined. Although the blood essence of 3 martial artists at the 3rd level of the spiritual ocean realm was rich, it was impossible for the prison-suppressing steel bloodline to advance to the divine level. It could only reach the 9th level of the king tier. If it wanted to break through to the divine level, it was unknown how much blood essence it would require. In this match, the Sea Cloud sect's opponent was the Blue Waves sect. This power had an expert at the peak of the 3rd level of the spiritual ocean tier as its leader, as well as several other experts at the 3rd level of the spiritual ocean tier. As soon as the competition began, the other side formed a battle formation, with defense as the priority. On the Sea Cloud sect's side, Kong Jin launched a storm of attacks while the others only assisted him in his attacks. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing did not make any moves and followed behind the crowd. This was their plan. First of all, they only needed to make a move. Their target was the stronger forces. It wasn't their turn to make a move yet. In this battle, under Kong Jin's storm-like attacks, the opponent's battle formation was finally destroyed. That peak 3rd level spiritual ocean tier martial artist was heavily injured and almost chopped off by Kong Jin's axe. Fortunately, they admitted defeat in time. Just like that, the Sea Clouds sect had already locked onto the top 9. The last 2 matches ended quickly, and the top 9 were all out. Intentionless Mansion, Sea Clouds sect, Red Moon sect, Wind Sword sect, Sure family. In the process of entering the top 9, the most shocking one was still the Wind Sword sect. The Wind Sword sect didn't just have the 2 monsters of Qinghe River. An elder of the Wind Sword sect had also erupted in this battle, revealing his cultivation at the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier, shocking everyone. The Wind Sword sect actually had 2 experts at the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier, and everyone thought that they had the highest chance of entering the top 3, or even the top 2. Without a doubt, the Intentionless Mansion was considered the strongest. After entering the top 9, they would take turns to fight each other. Each force would have to fight against the other 8 forces, and their ranking would be determined by their battle results. The order of the battle would be decided by drawing lots. The first battle was between Intentionless Mansion and the Sure family. The Sure family was Sure Kai's family. They were also very powerful and had a patriarch at the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier as their leader. However, this battle was against Intentionless Mansion, so there was no suspense at all. Before they even started the competition, the Sure family had already admitted defeat. This was the ranking battle, not the elimination battle, so of course he had to admit defeat. Otherwise, if they lost a few experts, how could they compete in the future? Therefore, when they encountered an opponent like Intentionless Mansion that they could not defeat, it was the wisest decision to admit defeat. No one would look down on the Sure family. In the second battle, the Wind Sword sect took the stage. His opponent also admitted defeat. Intentionless Mansion and Wind Sword sect had easily won. As long as they won 3 consecutive matches and entered the top 6, there would be no problem. The entire Wind Sword sect revealed a smile. Even Yi-Fa's face was full of smiles. Only one person's expression was even more ferocious, and that was Yi Qing. Her cultivation had been crippled. No matter how good the Wind Sword sect's results were, no matter how many spots they had, she would not have a share. Hence, her hatred for Wan Tingting and Lu Ming grew even stronger. The competition was carried out one match after another. Sea Cloud sect versus Red Moon sect. The judge's voice spread far and wide. In the first round of the ranking battle, they had actually encountered the Red Moon sect. Xiao Long, your winning streak ends here. The sect leader of the Red Moon sect looked at Xiao Long coldly. Oh, really? Don't end up like that pile of bones just now, in such a sorry state. Xiao Long sneered in response and looked at the sect leader of the Iron Bone sect. The Iron Bone sect's sect leader was so angry that his teeth were itching. With just a single sentence from him, Xiao Long had pulled him in again, causing him and the others to be depressed. Doesn't your Sea Cloud sect rely on that fatty? As long as we send someone to hold him back, the others will be able to easily defeat the rest of the Sea Cloud sect. Then, we'll join forces to deal with that fatty. It'll be easy to win. The sect leader of the Red Moon sect smiled faintly. Is that so? Xiao Long responded coldly and didn't say anything else. On the fighting ring, Lu Ming and the rest stood opposite the people from the Crimson Moon sect. Fatty, the Crimson Moon sect will definitely send out that expert at the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier to hold you back. Then, the others will come and defeat us, and then join forces to deal with you. Later on, you can't appear too strong. Our target is the Wind Sword sect. If you display too much strength, the Wind Sword sect will directly admit defeat when they meet us later. That would be troublesome. Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to Kong Jin. Lu Ming, don't worry. I'll defeat my opponent with difficulty later. Kong Jin grinned and sent a voice transmission to Lu Ming. Lu Ming also smiled faintly. This time, their target was the Wind Sword sect. If the Wind Sword sect wanted to enter the top 6, they would have to be extremely lucky and only encounter them later on. If they had encountered them earlier, the Wind Sword sect would not be able to enter the top 6. Do it! In the Red Moon sect, Six-Fingered Cultivator shouted and his body flashed as fast as lightning, pouncing toward Kong Jin. The other 8 people from the Crimson Moon sect quickly pounced on Lu Ming and the rest. The strength of the Red Moon sect was very strong. Apart from Six-Fingered Cultivator, who was at the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier, they also had an expert at the peak of the 3rd level of the spiritual ocean tier. There were also some other experts, and their overall strength was not weak. Set up the formation. Lu Ming roared. The 8 of them had set up a large array. Light flashed and a light screen enveloped them. Kill! Kong Jin and Six-Fingered Cultivator were engaged in an intense battle. The others from the Crimson Moon sect had also arrived. Boom! Boom! The experts of the Crimson Moon sect attacked them with all kinds of attacks. However, their battle formation was the inheritance that Lu Ming had obtained from Lian Song. It was extremely exquisite. In addition, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing had unleashed some of their strength and combined it with the battle formation to block the attack of the Red Moon sect. As for Kong Jin, he also suppressed his strength on purpose and fought to a draw with Six-Fingered Cultivator. For a time, the two sides were in a stalemate. Chapter 771. 771 Chapter 771 Displaying Strength. However, this was enough to shock the other forces. I didn't expect the Sea Cloud sect to be so strong. That fatty's battle power is indeed equivalent to the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier. He can actually fight to a draw with Six-Fingered Cultivator, how terrifying. Also, the battle formation of the Sea Cloud sect is so powerful and mysterious. It's a pure defensive battle formation. The cooperation of 8 people is flawless, and they actually blocked the attack of the Red Moon sect. Can you guys tell? Those 2 youths aren't simple either. They're at the 1st level of the spiritual ocean realm and have battle prowess at the peak of the 2nd level. They're almost heaven's favorites. How did the Sea Cloud sect manage to invite such people? The surroundings were abuzz with discussion. However, they had no idea that Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Kong Jin had suppressed their combat strength. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing had only erupted with combat power at the peak of the 2nd level of the spiritual ocean realm. With the 1st level of the spiritual ocean tier, he was able to burst out the combat power of the peak of the 2nd level of the spiritual ocean tier. This was already comparable to some of the worst prodigies, such as Qin Qingshan and Gao Chang. However, Lu Ming and the other 2 were not ordinary geniuses. Xian Yanqing and the other 2 had each comprehended at least one powerful special intent realm, and they had at least fused 2 of them together. In addition, they had their powerful bloodline martial techniques and cultivation techniques, which were all extraordinary. In addition, they had all cultivated the secret skills Super Spirit Sea, which doubled the size of their Spirit Sea. Each of them had terrifying battle power, and it wasn't hard for them to kill a normal 4th level spiritual ocean realm warrior. The 2 sides exchanged more than 100 moves. At this moment, Kong Jin roared repeatedly like a ferocious beast. He slashed wildly with his giant axe and gradually gained the upper hand. Another few dozen moves. Six-Fingered Cultivator spat out a mouthful of blood. His chest was swept by the axe, and a deep bloody mark appeared. He was almost cut in half. He turned pale with fright, and cold sweat poured down his back as he frantically retreated. Die! Kong Jin carried his battle axe and gave chase. Boom! With another move, Six-Fingered Itinerant's body was sent flying out of the fighting ring by Kong Jin's axe. He flew out of the fighting ring and was considered defeated. You're lucky. Kong Jin laughed hideously. He raised his battle axe and charged toward the other members of the Crimson Moon sect. We admit defeat. We admit defeat. Seeing that Six-Fingered had been defeated, the other people from the Red Moon sect immediately admitted defeat and didn't dare to fight again. With the Red Moon sect's surrender, the Sea Cloud sect won the 1st round of the ranking battle. How boring. Kong Jin returned to his seat, took out a large lamb leg, and started munching on it. Ha, I've said it before. You said it too early. Qiao Long sneered as he looked at the sect leader of Crimson Moon sect. Humph. The sect leader of the Red Moon sect snorted coldly with a gloomy face. The Sea Cloud sect's strategy is very simple. They rely on that defensive formation to defend themselves. In terms of offense, they completely rely on that fatty. That fatty's battle power is slightly stronger than Six-Fingered's. As long as there's an expert stronger than Six-Fingered holding that fatty back, or even having 2 experts at the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier to defeat that fatty, the Sea Cloud sect will definitely lose. That's right. The key is that fatty. He's not easy to deal with. This time, if nothing goes wrong, the Sea Cloud sect will have no problem entering the top 6. Qiao Long's luck is really good. He actually managed to invite such a heaven's favorite. The leaders of the other forces were quietly discussing. In the Wind Sword sect area, Yi Fa and the others were also discussing. Ancestor, seniors, if we encounter the Sea Cloud sect, do we have a chance of winning? Yi Fa sent a message to the Wind Sword sect Grandmaster and the Qing He twin monsters. Faction leader Yi, don't worry. My cultivation is stronger than six-fingered cultivators, so I can suppress that fatty. With younger brother Yi, we can kill that fatty. Then, we will win. The great Tao of the Qinghe twins, the little brother Yi he was referring to, was the Wind Sword sect's old ancestor. It's going to be difficult to completely annihilate the Sea Cloud sect. As long as we kill that fatty, the others will definitely admit defeat, and we won't be able to kill more people. The boss of the Qing He twin monsters continued. It's not bad to kill that fatty. Yi Fa nodded. He looked in the direction of the Sea Cloud sect. He didn't know why, but he still felt uncertain. He was worried about Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing. Although Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing had already displayed combat strength at the peak of the second level of the spiritual ocean realm, he was still uncertain. He was already at the early second level of the spiritual ocean tier, but last time, at the Wind Sword sect, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing gave him a very strong pressure. He could vaguely sense that Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's combat strength was not just at the peak of the second level of the spiritual ocean tier. But even if he reached the third level of the spiritual ocean tier, what was the use? If the Qing He twin monsters and the old ancestor killed the fatty, they would definitely win. Yi Fa warned himself in his heart. The competition continued. Soon, the first round was over and they entered the second round. When he encountered the forces of Intentionless Mansion, he still admitted defeat directly. The Wind Sword sect against the Sea Cloud sect. Suddenly, the judge's voice was heard. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. Xian Yanqing and Kong Jin were the same. He did not expect to meet the Wind Sword sect in the second battle. What luck! Lu Ming, are you confident? Qiao Xian looked at Lu Ming and the rest. The Wind Sword sect had 2 experts at the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier. Don't worry, you don't think I'm worse than this fatty, do you? Lu Ming chuckled. Kong Jin pursed his lips but did not refute. Ting, just watch. We'll kill the 2 monsters of Qinghe in this battle. Lu Ming smiled at Ruan Tingting. You guys be careful. Ruan Tingting said softly. Let's go, time to go on stage. Lu Ming smiled and flew up to the fighting ring with Kong Jin and the rest. The Wind Sword sect disciples also ascended the stage. I advise you to admit defeat as soon as possible, hee. The boss of the Qing He twin monsters sneered as he stared at Xian Yanqing with a burning gaze. I say, old man, hurry up and admit defeat. Wait a minute, my axe doesn't recognize people. Kong Jin laughed coldly as he waved the battle axe in his hand. Fatty, little Qing, follow the plan. I'll take care of the 2 monsters of Qing He. Leave the Wind Sword sect patriarch to Fatty. Little Qing, you're in charge of keeping the others quiet. Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to Kong Jin and Xian Yanqing. The 2 of them nodded. Hee, if that's the case, then go to hell. The 2 monsters of Qing He revealed a cold killing intent. Their bodies flashed and they pounced towards Kong Jin. At the same time, the Wind Sword sect's Grandmaster pounced towards Kong Jin while the others pounced towards Lu Ming and the others. Buzz! At this time, everyone saw a figure flash and suddenly appear in front of the boss of the 2 monsters of Qinghe. Old man, I'll send you on your way today. Lu Ming sneered. Just you. Die. The 2 monsters of Qing He shouted coldly and struck a palm at Lu Ming. The eruption of the cultivation of the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier was extremely terrifying. Lu Ming smiled faintly and threw a punch. Boom! A huge explosion was heard. The boss of the Qing He twin monsters trembled and took 2 steps back. How did this happen? The leader of the Qing He twin monsters looked at Lu Ming in shock. How could Lu Ming be so powerful that he could force him to retreat with one palm? Chapter 772. 772 cannot admit defeat. The surrounding spectators were even more shocked. First of all, Lu Ming's sudden dash and his lightning-fast appearance in front of the boss of the Qinghe twin monsters had already shocked many people. In their opinion, shouldn't Lu Ming stay in the battle formation and focus on defense? Wasn't the main fighting force of the Sea Cloud sect that fatty? However, in the next move, Lu Ming repelled the leader of the Qinghe twin monsters. The others almost jumped up in shock. He had hidden his strength. Lu Ming had definitely hidden his strength before this. His true combat strength was so powerful that he could defeat the boss of the Qinghe twin monsters with one move. One must know that the boss of the Qinghe twin monsters was stronger than Six-Fingered Cultivator. Many people realized that they had underestimated the Sea Cloud sect's strength. To be more precise, they had underestimated the strength of those young people. He didn't show it just now because he didn't need it. Buzz! At that moment, Xian Yanqing's Sky Demon Force field had already enveloped the Wind Sword sect disciples. The terrifying pressure suddenly pressed down, causing the Wind Sword sect disciples to move as slowly as a turtle. Ha! Kill! Kong Jin laughed out loud and struck out with his battle axe. The Wind Sword sect Grandmaster's body trembled violently and he staggered back with a pale face. Let's enter together. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming threw out 2 punches. One of them was aimed at the eldest brother of the Qinghe duo, while the other pierced through the void and aimed at the second brother. The second brother of the twin monsters of Qinghe was only at the peak 3rd level of the spiritual ocean tier. He was sent flying by a punch and coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. Kill! An even more terrifying fist radiance followed closely, drowning the second brother of the Qinghe twin monsters. The second brother of the Qinghe twin monsters let out a blood-curdling screech as his body was blasted apart by Lu Ming's fist force and he died on the spot. Second brother. The leader of the Qinghe twin monsters roared angrily. His eyes were red. He unleashed all his strength and bombarded Lu Ming. Little bastard, I'm going to kill you. The sword aura in the hands of the leader of the Qinghe twin monsters was like a river, surging toward Lu Ming. The sharp aura filled the air and cut the space, leaving traces. It's your turn now. Lu Ming's eyes were cold as he struck out with his palm. He activated the prison suppressing heaven technique and his palm was like a divine monument. Bang! The river of sword chi collapsed and the prison suppressing heavenly arts suppressed everything. The 2 monsters of Qinghe cried out in pain and retreated, blood spurting out of their mouths. How did this happen? He howled madly and looked at Lu Ming with eyes full of disbelief and fear. His cultivation had already reached the middle 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier, and his combat strength was not weak either. Yet, he was not Lu Ming's match and was completely crushed by Lu Ming. Lu Ming was only at the 1st level of the spiritual ocean tier. How could there be such a freak? His heart trembled. The next moment, he heard a scream. On the other side, the Wind Sword sect master was in an even worse state. One of his arms had been cut off, and he was covered in blood. The strength that Kong Jin displayed was even stronger than when he fought 6 Fingers. Everyone in the surroundings was shocked beyond words. Lu Ming's strength was shocking. He completely crushed the boss of the Qinghe twin monsters. Even Kong Jin's strength was stronger than before. They had been hiding their strength. They had not even used their full strength before. In the Red Moon Sect's area, Six-Fingered Cultivator's face was a bit pale. He originally thought that Kong Jin's battle power was stronger than his, but not by much. However, he now understood that Kong Jin had been pretending. In the Intentionless Mansion, many experts of the Intentionless Mansion had grave expressions. Fatty, send them on their way. Lu Ming sneered. He strode forward and struck with his palm. A terrifying pressure suddenly exploded as if it was going to crush the boss of the 2 monsters of Qinghe River. Bang! The boss of the Qinghe twin monsters tried his best to resist, but one of his arms was shattered. On the other side, the Wind Sword Sect's Grandmaster was in an even worse state. A deep gash appeared on his chest, and he was almost split in half. We admit defeat. We admit defeat. I admit defeat. The boss of the Qinghe twin monsters and the patriarch of the Wind Sword Sect roared. Kill! Kill! Lu Ming and Kong Jin continued to charge forward. Why aren't you guys stopping? We've already admitted defeat. The Wind Sword Sect's patriarch roared. What a joke, there are only 8 of you left, and it will only take effect if more than half of you admit defeat. Only 2 of you admit defeat. Lu Ming sneered. You guys, quickly admit defeat. The leader of the Qinghe twin monsters felt the killing intent from Lu Ming and was on the verge of tears. He roared madly at the other Wind Sword Sect members. However, the other Wind Sword Sect members were simply in a dilemma. They were enveloped by Xian Yanqing's Sky Demon Force Field. The most important thing was that it contained a terrifying destructive cutting power. They felt that they would be killed in the next moment. As long as they opened their mouths and shouted a word, the terrifying destructive cutting power would enter their mouths, making it difficult for them to speak. Their hearts were burning with anxiety, but they couldn't utter a word. It seems like they don't want to admit defeat. Lu Ming sneered and stepped forward. A terrifying pressure was exerted on the 2 monsters of Qinghe. Cheating, they're cheating. Judge, we admit defeat, we admit defeat. On the grandstand, Yi Fa stood up and shouted madly. You're a person who didn't participate in the battle. What's the use of admitting defeat? Lu Ming cast a sidelong glance at him and said coldly. They're about to admit defeat. You guys controlled them. You guys cheated. Yi Fa shouted, his heart burning with anxiety. According to the rules, you have to admit defeat personally to be considered to have admitted defeat. In the sky, the judge coldly said. He found Lu Ming and the others interesting. He muttered to himself that the judge could not be bothered with the lives of a few ants from the Wind Sword Sect. He was only doing things according to the rules. The judge's words made Yi Fa's face turn pale. On the battle stage, Kong Jin's roar was like thunder as his battle axe chopped down. The Wind Sword Sect's Grandmaster screamed in pain as he was split into 2. Bang! Lu Ming's palm hit the 2 monsters' chests. The terrifying power destroyed their boss's heart and internal organs. The Qinghe twin monsters roared, their eyes filled with unwillingness. This time, they were not here to die, but Yi Fa had paid a heavy price to invite them. If they had known that they would die if they came, they would never have come. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. The boss of the 2 monsters let out an unwilling roar and died. Lu Ming moved his hand and kept old monster Qinghe's storage ring. He devoured the blood essence. Then, with a flash of his body, he devoured the blood essence of the Wind Sword Sect Grandmaster and the second brother of the Qinghe twin monsters. At this moment, the remaining people who were enveloped by Xian Yanqing's Sky Demon Force Field were so scared that their faces turned pale, their bodies trembled, and they broke out in cold sweat. The Qinghe twins and the Wind Sword Sect's Grandmaster had been killed. Would they be killed next? Yet, they could not admit defeat. All he saw was that their faces were pale and their eyes were full of pleading, little Qing, kill those at the 3rd level of the spiritual ocean tier. Leave the rest to Tingting. Lu Ming said. Xian Yanqing nodded. With a press of her hand, the destructive cutting power suddenly increased by several times. 2 Wind Sword Sect experts at the 3rd level of the spiritual ocean tier were killed by the destructive cutting force. Chapter 773. 773 The Final Battle. On the fighting ring, there were only 4 martial artists below the 3rd level of the spiritual ocean realm left. They looked at Lu Ming and the rest in horror. Bang! In the audience, in the Wind Sword Sect's area, Yi Fei's body seemed to have been drained of all strength as he slumped in his chair. His eyes were filled with despair. The Wind Sword Sect was finished. The Qinghe twin monsters that he had paid a huge price to invite had died in battle, and the Wind Sword Sect's patriarch had been killed. The Wind Sword Sect's competition had ended here. Originally, they only needed to win 2 more rounds to get into the top 6 and obtain at least 3 slots. But now, there was no hope at all. They had already been eliminated. All his plans and arrangements were in vain. This wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that the Wind Sword Sect's patriarch had been killed, and 2 experts at the 3rd level of the spiritual ocean tier had also been killed. The Wind Sword Sect's strength had plummeted, and they had completely become the weakest of all the factions around Grand Gathering City. In the future, how could the Wind Sword Sect compete with the other powers? They were destined to decline. All of this was because of Lu Ming and the few of them. No, it was all because of Ruantingting. Yi Fei's eyes turned to the Sea Cloud Sect and saw Ruantingting's figure. It was all because of this woman. They were the ones who first sacrificed Ruantingting's happiness and wanted to marry her to the 2 monsters of Qinghe, which led to all this. Then, he remembered that when he proposed to marry Ruantingting to the twin monsters of Qinghe, Ruantingting had said that she could ask a few friends to help the Wind Sword Sect participate in the competition. Her few friends were undoubtedly Lu Ming and the rest. Unfortunately, he did not believe it at all. Not only did he reject Ruantingting, but he also offended Lu Ming and the others and asked them to go to the Sea Cloud Sect. The Sea Cloud Sect was just a small force, but it was so glorious because of the addition of Lu Ming and the others. And all of this should have belonged to the Wind Sword Sect. If Lu Ming and the rest joined in, there would be no need for the 2 monsters of the Clear River Sect. In addition to the Wind Sword Sect's own strength, they would have a high chance of winning. Unfortunately, everything was just an if. Everything had been destroyed by him. Yi Fei's mouth was filled with bitterness. He regretted it, but he knew that there was no turning back. Yi Qing's eyes were also in a daze. She had never expected this outcome. The strength of Lu Ming and the rest had exceeded her expectations. She knew that she would never be able to take revenge in this lifetime. Lu Ming and the rest were not on the same level as her. They were not in the same world. The Sea Cloud Sect's area was the complete opposite of the Wind Sword Sect's. It was a jubilant atmosphere, and Xiao Long even laughed out loud in excitement. Ting, look! Lu Ming and the rest killed the Qinghe twin monsters. Xiao Xian tightly held onto Ruantingting's hand. Ruantingting's eyes were filled with gratitude. She knew that Lu Ming and the rest were doing this for her. Thank you all. I will work hard to cultivate. I will personally settle the rest. Ruantingting whispered. On the side, the Iron Bone Sect and the Crimson Moon Sect, the 2 forces that had fought against the Sea Cloud Sect, were rejoicing in their hearts. However, they were also filled with lingering fear. They had actually looked down on the Sea Cloud Sect and Lu Ming's group. They were clearly top-tier Heaven's favorites. We admit defeat, we admit defeat. In the fighting ring, Xian Yanqing retracted his Sky Demon Force field and the remaining 4 people started shouting madly. However, no one was paying attention to them anymore. Almost everyone's eyes were on Lu Ming, Kang Jin, and Xian Yanqing. They knew that Xian Yanqing wasn't to be trifled with. He actually controlled 6 experts by himself, making them unable to even call out to admit defeat. Then, with a light wave of his hand, he dealt with 2 experts at the 3rd level of the spiritual ocean tier. His methods were simply unpredictable and chilling. The other 6 people from the Sea Cloud Sect looked at each other and smiled bitterly. They understood that they were only here to make up the numbers. They had nothing to do with this competition. The Sea Cloud Sect wins. The judge announced the result. Lu Ming returned to his seat and continued to refine the blood essence. She had devoured all the blood essence of the 5 wind sword sect disciples who had been killed. This time, the blood essence was even denser and more terrifying. 2 were at the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier, and 3 were at the 3rd level. Lu Ming refined it with all his might to upgrade the prison-suppressing steel's bloodline. The competition continued. However, the original 9 forces had become 8. The Wind Sword sect had been eliminated in advance, and they were no longer able to fight. The rest of the competition was much simpler. After seeing how terrifying Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Kong Jin were, the other forces would admit defeat when they encountered the Sea Cloud sect. The Intentionless Mansion and the Sea Cloud sect had always won. When the ranking battle was about to end, Lu Ming's blood essence had been completely refined. However, the bloodline of the prison-suppressing steel showed no signs of advancing. Lu Ming was clear that it would not be that easy. However, he was not too disappointed. Whether it was a coincidence or the judge's intention, the battle between Intentionless Mansion and Sea Cloud sect was left to the end. Intentionless Mansion against Sea Cloud sect. When the judge said this, everyone's spirits were lifted. Intentionless Mansion had not fought a single battle in the ranking battle and had won all of them until now. No one knew how strong the battle power of the Intentionless Mansion was. On the surface, the Intentionless Mansion had 2 4th-level spiritual ocean tier cultivators, one of whom was at the late 4th-level spiritual ocean tier. But they must have invited outside help. The Sea Cloud sect had fought 2 battles and had won all of them until now. In the battle between the 2 forces, who was stronger? Everyone was very curious. With a flash, both parties ascended the fighting ring. Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Kong Jin stood at the front while the other 6 stood behind them. They knew that they were only here to make up the numbers. They only needed to defend well. They didn't want to achieve anything, but they wanted to avoid any mistakes. I truly admired the 3 of you for having such battle prowess despite being so young. An elegant old man walked out of Intentionless Mansion and said with a smile. Lu Ming and the other 2 did not speak. They looked at the old man and waited for him to continue. How about this, let's just treat this battle as a sparring session and not harm our lives. The elegant old man continued. This elegant elder was the patriarch of the Intentionless Mansion. He was obviously afraid of Lu Ming and the other 2. Sure. Lu Ming smiled. They had no grudges with the Intentionless Mansion. There was no need to take their lives. That's good. Get into formation. After the elegant elder finished speaking, the 9 people from Intentionless Mansion moved and formed a large formation. A terrifying aura burst out. 5 experts at the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier, and even a peak 4th level spiritual ocean tier expert. As soon as the aura of the 9 people from Intentionless Mansion burst out, there were cries of alarm from the surroundings. The Intentionless Mansion was indeed powerful. They actually had 5 experts at the 4th level of the spiritual ocean tier. Compared to them, the other forces were far too lacking. The remaining 4 people were all at the peak 3rd level of the spiritual ocean tier. A battle formation set up by a few people together was extremely terrifying. Who could break it? Interesting, let's join forces. Lu Ming said. All right. Xian Yanqing nodded. Ha, let's have a good fight. I haven't had a good fight today. Kong Jin laughed and strode forward. Sky Devil Force Field. Xian Yanqing made the first move. Chapter 774. 774 The Shangguan Family. Xian Yanqing took the lead and used the Sky Demon Force Field to envelop his opponent. A terrifying destructive force burst out. Buzz. Whoosh. The people of Intentionless Mansion activated the battle formation. Battle sabers were formed one after another, negating the invisible destructive cutting power. At that moment, Lu Ming and Kong Jin flashed into the Sky Demon Power Field. Try my axe, the Mad Demon Battle Axe. Kong Jin stepped on the fighting stage, and the fighting stage rumbled. With every step he took, his body swelled up a little. The battle axe in his hand, which was as big as a door, twisted the air into a ball and smashed toward Intentionless Mansion like a storm. The earth concept and shattering concept were integrated into the bloodline martial skill. The terrifying power and the power to destroy everything made the people of Intentionless Mansion change their expressions. Boom! Lu Ming used the prison-suppressing heavenly art and struck out at the Intentionless Mansion. In comparison, Lu Ming's palm was much more restrained. It looked very ordinary, as if it was just an ordinary palm. However, the faces of the people from Intentionless Mansion were even uglier. This was because they could feel that the pressure from Lu Ming's palm was even stronger than Kong Jin's. Block it! The elegant old man shouted. The 9 of them activated the battle formation and combined their auras into one. They each sent out 2 rays of saber radiance, which were aimed at Lu Ming and Kong Jin. Boom! Boom! With 2 loud bangs, Lu Ming and Kong Jin stood still, while the 9 people from Intentionless Mansion staggered backward. Even the battle formation was almost destroyed. They were enveloped by Xian Yanqing's Sky Demon Force Field and were suppressed. It was difficult for them to exert their full combat strength. Again. Lu Ming and Kong Jin stepped forward and launched another attack. This time, the power of this attack was stronger than the previous one. The hand of the heavenly devil. This time, Xian Yanqing also attacked. A beautiful arm pressed towards the people of Intentionless Mansion. Boom! 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 The entire battle stage was shaking. The 9 people from Intentionless Mansion were thrown into disarray by the violent power and retreated one after another. The 4 peak 3rd level spiritual ocean tier martial artists' faces turned pale and they spat out a mouthful of blood. Ha! Amazing, truly amazing. We admit defeat. The elegant old man took a deep breath and calmed his surging chi and blood. He cupped his fists and said, but his eyes were filled with shock. The 9 of them had joined forces to set up a formation, but they were still no match for Lu Ming and the other 2. The combat strength of these 3 young men was terrifying. Thanks for letting me win. Lu Ming cupped his fists and smiled. The Sea Clouds sect wins this battle. The judge announced. Immediately, cheers came from the Sea Clouds sect. Many people were so excited that their faces turned red. Who? Who? At the scene, the people from the other forces all let out a breath, as if they were trying to calm down their turbulent emotions. The Sea Clouds sect had actually defeated the Intentionless Mansion. This was something that he had never expected before the competition. At the very beginning, when the Sea Clouds sect's people went up, everyone saw that there were actually 3 first-level spiritual ocean tier youths. No one thought highly of the Sea Clouds sect, thinking that they were just going through the motions. Even if a few people thought that the Sea Clouds sect might have invited a heaven's favorite, what would happen? However, they would never have thought that the Sea Clouds sect would be able to defeat the Intentionless Mansion. After all, it was impossible for ordinary geniuses to defeat an expert at the 4th level of the spiritual ocean realm at the 1st level of the spiritual ocean realm. The difference was too great. However, in the end, the Sea Clouds sect became the dark horse and defeated the Intentionless Mansion. Without a doubt, the Sea Clouds sect was in first place this time. According to the results, the top 6 have been decided. They are the Sea Clouds sect in first place, with 8 spots. The judge announced. Waves of cheers came from the Sea Clouds sect. Qiao Long's face was filled with excitement. Out of the 8 spots, 4 were given to Lu Ming. There were 4 left. He would never have dared to think about this before. The other powers all looked at the Sea Clouds sect and Qiao Long with envy. The Sea Clouds sect's luck was too good. They had actually obtained the help of such a heaven's favorite. Why didn't they have this luck? Second place, Intentionless Mansion, 6 spots. The judge announced the top 6. 6th place, Red Moon Sect. 6th place, 3 spots for the 100 Venerate Mountains. Alright, this competition is over. In the next 2 days, list out the spots to enter the 100 Venerate Mountains. In 2 days, someone will go to the Sea Cloud sect to get it. After the announcement of the verdict, he looked at Lu Ming, Kang Jin, and Xian Yanqing before leaving. With the judge's departure, the competition had come to an end. The Sea Cloud sect had become the biggest winner. The 36 forces dispersed. Lu Ming and the rest had also returned to the Sea Cloud sect. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. The top 6 forces all sent people to the Sea Cloud sect to wait for the messenger. One day, a young man wearing a starry robe arrived at the Sea Cloud sect. Qiao Long and the people from the other 6 factions came out to welcome them. Have you prepared the list of the people who will enter the 100 Venerated Mountains? Give it to me. The young man had his hands behind his back and an air of superiority. Qiao Long and the others didn't dare to delay and quickly handed in their respective name lists. They could tell that the young man was a disciple of the Shengguan family just by looking at his clothes. The Shengguan family was one of the most powerful families on the Dragon's Vein, apart from the Wang family. It was also one of the most powerful forces in 9 dragons, apart from the 6 ancient families. Compared to small forces like them, they were many times stronger. The young man put away the name list and glanced at it. He nodded and waved his hand, sending 8 tokens to Qiao Long. These are the 8 tokens to enter the 100 Venerated Mountains, keep them. Qiao Long happily put it away. Then, the young man passed the corresponding token to Intentionless Mansion and the other forces. As long as you're under 30 years old and have the mountain entrance token, you can enter the 100 Venerated Mountains at any time. After saying that, the young man stepped into the air and left. After the young man left, Qiao Long went to Lu Ming and the others' residence and handed the 4 tokens to them. Brother Lu Ming, when do you plan to enter the 100 Venerated Mountains? Should I let Xian, and the others go with you guys? Qiao Long asked. Tomorrow. Lu Ming said. Qiao Long nodded and left. After the young man from the Shengguan family issued the tokens, he flew toward the Dragon Vein. This time, there's a name called Lu Ming on the list. Interesting. Could it be Lu Ming from the Heavenly King list? The young man muttered. I heard from Uncle Wuchen that cousin Xingqian has an enemy in the Tianxian region. His name is Lu Ming. I wonder if they are the same person. Should I tell Uncle Wuchen about this? I should go and tell them. If it's the same person, I might be blamed for not mentioning it even if I know the situation in the future. With this thought in mind, the young man flew in the direction of the Shengguan family. The Wang family occupied the core of the Dragon Vein, but the Shengguan family also occupied a very good territory, which was one of the most precious places. One after another, majestic mountain peaks rose from the ground. They were lush and verdant, and the spirit qi was so dense that it was like fog floating in the sky. It was like a paradise. Many palaces were located on the mountain peak. In the courtyard of one of the palaces, 2 figures were sitting. They were Shengguan Wuchen and Shengguan Wuling. Chapter 775. 775 Meeting Shengguan Wuchen again. The uncle and mother of Holy Constellation. At this moment, the 2 of them were drinking tea in the courtyard. Second brother, you sent someone to investigate that bastard Lu Ming. How's the investigation going? Is he still in the Tianxian region? Shengguan Wuling asked. Shengguan Wuchen shook his head and said, I've done my investigation. Lu Ming has left the Tianxian region a long time ago. I don't know where he went. However, I'm sure that his relationship with Yan Kuangtu isn't that deep. Yan Kuangtu stayed in the Tianxian region for 2 days before he left. Lu Ming, that little bastard. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have suffered such humiliation and even been humiliated by Yan Kuangtu in public. Shangguan Wuling's face revealed a malevolent expression. Little sister, let's forget about the matter with Yan Kuangtu. He is one of the supreme commanders of the Detian royal guards. Even our patriarch would not dare to offend him. Shangguan Wuchen's expression changed slightly. Second brother, I know that. But we can't let Lu Ming off. Shangguan Wuling said coldly. You don't have to worry about that. Lu Ming is quite talented. He won't miss the Battle of Providence. He might come to 9 Dragons. Once he's there, he'll be at our mercy. Shangguan Wuchen took a sip of tea, a cold smile on his face. As the two of them were talking, a young man walked in. This young man was the one who had gone to the Sea Cloud sect to issue the 100 venerated mountain entrance token. The young man was called Shangguan Jinhui. Jinhui, you're not working as a Detian Imperial Guard. How do you have the time to return to the Shangguan clan? Shangguan Wuchen stood up and smiled when he saw the young man. Uncle Wuchen and Aunt Wuling are here as well. It just so happens that I have something to discuss with you too, so I decided to come back. Shangguan Jinhui said. Oh. What's the matter? Shangguan Wuchen was a little curious. I heard that cousin Xingqian has an enemy in the Tianxian region. His name is Lu Ming, right? Shangguan Jinhui said. Jinhui, do you have news of Lu Ming? Shangguan Wuling's eyes lit up. Shangguan Jinhui nodded. I went to the periphery of the Dragon Vein this time to give out the 100 venerated mountain entrance tokens to a few small forces. Lu Ming's name was on one of the forces' nominations, so I wanted to come and say something. Could it be someone with the same name? Shangguan Wuchen said. I don't know. Shangguan Jinhui shook his head. He was only in charge of giving out tokens and did not know anything else. As for the situation of the competition, he naturally did not know anything. Second brother, I'm planning to go and take a look. What if it's that little bastard? You still want to enter the 100 venerated mountains? Dream on. Shangguan Wuling revealed a ferocious expression. I've delivered my message, farewell. Shangguan Jinhui cupped his fists and left. Then let's go take a look. If it's that little bastard, just cripple him. Shangguan Wuchen also said coldly. The next morning, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, Kong Jin, Wan Tingting, the 4 young men from Sea Cloud sect, and Xiao Xian were all there. A group of 8 people flew toward the Dragon Vein. The entrance of the 100 venerated mountains was right above the Dragon Vein. The word supreme in the 100 venerated mountain referred to the spiritual god realm masters. The masters of the spiritual god realm were also called supremacies. It was said that not only was the spiritual chi of heaven and earth extremely rich in the 100 venerated mountains, but there were also more than 100 spiritual god realm powerhouses who had left their own cultivation marks there. There were even spiritual god powerhouses who had left their own inheritances there. In history, there were some peerless powerhouses who, when they were alive, did not find a suitable successor. They would leave their inheritance behind through some special means in the hope that there would be a suitable successor in the future to inherit their legacy. Therefore, in the 100 venerated mountains, not only could one use the marks left behind by spiritual god realm masters to comprehend the essence realm of heaven and earth, but one could also obtain the inheritance of spiritual god realm masters. Some powerful spiritual god realm powerhouses had even mastered god-level cultivation techniques and martial techniques, which was very tempting. Lu Ming's group of 8 flew forward at an extremely fast speed. In the distance, one could see an extremely majestic and vast mountain range lying on the ground. This mountain range was the Dragon's Vein, and one couldn't see the end of it. It was too big and majestic. Such dense spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Lu Ming gasped in admiration. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth on the Dragon Vein was even denser. It was several times denser than in the area of the Grand Gathering City. Moreover, he could sense the intent realm of heaven and earth more clearly. The environment was too good. Cultivating in such an environment, it would be difficult for one's cultivation not to improve. They flew into the dragon vein and headed towards the entrance of the 100 venerated mountains. Soon, they came to a huge platform. In front of the platform, there was a huge light door, which was the entrance to the 100 venerated mountains. In front of the light door, there were experts guarding. "Little bastard, is it really you?" Just as Lu Ming and the rest landed on the platform, a shrill scream was heard. Lu Ming looked in the direction of the voice and could not help being stunned. He saw Shangguan Wuchen and Shangguan Wuling. At this time, Shangguan Wuling was staring at him with a ferocious face. Lu Ming frowned. He did not expect to meet people from the Shangguan family here. "Little bastard, you're really amazing. You're in 9 dragons, and you've even managed to get a place to enter the 100 venerated mountain." Shangguan Wuling stepped forward. At the same time, Shangguan Wuchen also stepped forward. Beside them, there was a tall young man. They stood in front of Lu Ming and the rest, blocking their way. "Move, you're blocking the way." Lu Ming frowned. "Get out of the way. Little bastard, do you know what's in front of you? That's the 100 venerated mountains, the holy land for cultivation in 9 dragons. What is your status? What right does a kid who came from a barren mountain in the Tianxian region have to enter the 100 venerated mountain? Now, hand over your entrance token and get out of here." Shangguan Wuling said coldly. Back then, Lu Ming had injured the holy star in public and caused Yan Kuangtu to slap her in public. She had regarded it as a great humiliation, and even after such a long time, she still hated Lu Ming to the core. In addition, she did not dare to provoke Yan Kuangtu. She could only blame everything on Lu Ming. "Lu Ming, who is this crazy woman? There must be something wrong with his brain," Kong Jin said unhappily. "He's just a mad dog. Let's go." Lu Ming shook his head and walked to the side, wanting to bypass Shangguan Wuling and the rest. "Little bastard, what did you just say? You dare to scold me? You're looking for death." Shangguan Wuling screamed. Boom! Shangguan Wuchen took a step forward and stood in front of Lu Ming and the others. A powerful aura burst out. 2nd level of the spiritual ocean tier. Now, Lu Ming could clearly sense Shangguan Wuchen's cultivation. The corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. The 2nd level of the spiritual ocean tier, he could suppress it with a flip of his hand. "I advise you to get out of the way." Lu Ming looked at Shangguan Wuchen indifferently. "Little bastard, how dare you insult me? Today, none of you can leave." Shangguan Wuling's face was twisted with rage as he swept his gaze across Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and the rest. He then screeched, "I didn't expect you to have a few pretty girls with you. That's good. These girls will all come back with me. It's your good fortune to be Xingqian's concubines." Chapter 776. 776 Chapter 776 Times have changed. Buzz. Just as Shangguan Wuling finished her sentence, Lu Ming suddenly took a step forward and sent a slap towards her. Pa! A loud slap rang out. Shangguan Wuling let out a blood-curdling scream as her body was sent flying far away. She fell tens of meters away. Her hair was disheveled and one side of her face was swollen. She looked at Lu Ming in a daze, completely dumbfounded. Lu Ming actually dared to hit her. He actually dared to slap her. Not even in her dreams did she expect this. "You're just a mad dog, you don't want face when I give you face," Lu Ming said coldly. "Ah!" At this moment, Shangguan Wuling finally reacted and let out a hysterical scream. Her eyes revealed endless viciousness as she glared at Lu Ming and shouted, "Little bastard, you dare to hit me? I want you dead. I want to skin you alive." Pa! Lu Ming waved his hand again and slapped the other side of Shangguan Wuling's face across the air. Immediately, her body flew out again and fell to the ground. She spat out a large mouthful of blood and was completely stunned. How dare you? You're looking for death. Shengguan Wuchen bellowed in rage. He moved his body and struck a palm at Lu Ming. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward and all of Shengguan Wuchen's attacks turned into bubbles. The next moment, he felt a tight grip on his throat. His throat had been grabbed by Lu Ming's iron-like claws. There was a look of disbelief in his eyes. Lu Ming had actually destroyed all his attacks and defenses with one move and grabbed his throat. Do you still think that I'm the same person as I was back then? Lu Ming clasped Shengguan Wuchen's neck and lifted him up high. Shengguan Wuchen's face was flushed red. The vital essence in his body could not be mobilized at all. It had been sealed by Lu Ming. His heart was in a state of shock. How long had it been? Not even a year. Back in the Tianxian region, he was a mighty Sea of Soul realm expert who looked down on Lu Ming. In his eyes, Lu Ming was like an ant that he could kill at will. But now, in Lu Ming's hands, he was so weak and defenseless. It was completely the opposite of what it was before. Boy, let go of your hand. Lord Wuchen is a direct descendant of the Shengguan family. If anything happens to him, you'll be dead. A young man who had been following behind Shengguan Wuchen burst out with a powerful aura that enveloped Lu Ming. The peak of the third level of the spiritual ocean realm. This youth had a cultivation at the peak third level of the spiritual ocean tier. Is that so? There was a flash of killing intent in Lu Ming's eyes. The young man was shocked and shouted, "You're bullying the weak. What kind of skill is that? If you have the ability, fight me." All right, no fighting is allowed at the entrance of the 100 Venerated Mountains. If you have any grudges, leave this place or enter the 100 Venerated Mountains to settle them. At this moment, an old voice was heard from the entrance of the 100 Venerated Mountain. The young man from the Shengguan clan's expression changed when he heard the voice, and he immediately retracted his aura. Bang! Lu Ming swung his arm and threw Shengguan Wuchen away. Get out of the way. If you want to find me, I'll be waiting for you in the 100 Venerated Mountains. Lu Ming looked at the young man. Although this young man's cultivation was at the peak of the third level of the spiritual ocean tier, he did not give Lu Ming any pressure at all. Clearly, he was not a heaven's favorite. In the superior environment of 9 dragons, some big families like the Shengguan family, especially the 6 great ancient families, definitely had many young men under the age of 30 who had reached the Sea of Soul realm. However, these people were not heaven's favorites. Their combat strength was not strong and their potential was limited. If they really had to fight, Lu Ming could suppress them with a flip of his hand. The young man snorted coldly and rushed toward Shengguan Wuchen and the others to check their injuries. You're so weak, yet you still want to find trouble. How boring. Kong Jin pursed his lips. They walked towards the entrance. Lu Ming, the Shengguan family still has a few other geniuses. You have to be careful. Qiao Xian whispered. It's fine. Lu Ming smiled. He had never been afraid of challenges. Only challenges could make him improve faster. The group of 8 showed their mountain entrance tokens and naturally entered the 100 Venerated Mountains without any obstructions. Little bastard, I want him dead. On the platform, Shengguan Wuling was screaming. Her face was ferocious, like a fierce ghost. Lu Ming actually dared to slap her. How dare he? Yan Kuangtu dared to slap him, but so did Lu Ming. Although Shengguan Wuling's cultivation level was low, her status was not low. She was the daughter of an elder of the Shengguan clan who had real power. She had been pampered since she was young. Who would dare to hit her? How about this? Let's go back first. I'll call a few experts from the clan to enter the 100 Venerated Mountains and kill that Lu Ming. The young man said. All right, let's go back first. Shengguan Wuchen nodded and the 3 of them flew toward the Shengguan family. When they returned to the Shangguan family, they met a few people. Mother, uncle, what's wrong? Who did this? You're looking for death. One of the youths was Saint Xingqian. He could see the injuries of Shangguan Wuchen and Shangguan Wuling with a single glance. Especially Shangguan Wuling, both sides of her face were swollen, and it had not disappeared until now. This made the killing intent of the sacred constellation extremely strong. Xingqian, you've come out of seclusion. It's Lu Ming. It's that little bastard Lu Ming. He actually dared to hit me. Shangguan Wuling shouted. Lu Ming. It's him. Holy Constellation's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. What's going on? A majestic voice rang out. The one who spoke was a tall and strong old man. His eyes were sharp, and he gave off an imposing aura. This old man was the father of Shangguan Wuchen and Shangguan Wuling. He was an elder with real power in the Shangguan family. Father, it's like this. Shangguan Wuchen briefly explained the matter. Lu Ming, you're simply courting death. I'm going to the 100 venerated mountains to kill him now. The holy star's killing intent exploded, and a terrifying aura emanated from his body. Sacred Constellation's cultivation had also broken through to the spiritual ocean tier, and it wasn't the first level of the spiritual ocean tier, but the second level. Xingqian, it's not a good time for you to fight now. Your bloodline is extraordinary. It's the 7 stars of Heavenly Dipper. If you can awaken the real 7 stars of Heavenly Dipper, it'll definitely be a divine bloodline. The most important thing for you now is to cultivate in seclusion and awaken the 3rd bloodline. If you can awaken a divine bloodline, you'll be able to enter the ranks of divine-level geniuses. You'll have more capital in the battle of providence. The old man said in a deep voice. Grandpa, are you going to let Lu Ming off? I'm not willing. Xingqian said. Compared to you awakening a divine bloodline, this is a small matter. How about this, Jin Ju, bring a few men and bring Lu Ming's head to me. The old man turned around and said to the other youth. Don't worry, elder. Lu Ming will definitely die. The young man smiled. As for Shangguan Wuchen and the others, their faces were also filled with joy. Shangguan Jinjue was the Shangguan family's supreme talent. He was ranked 465th on the list of top 1,000 talents. With him, Lu Ming was doomed. Shangguan Jinjue then turned around and left. After Lu Ming and the other 8 stepped through the door, they appeared on another platform in the next moment. This platform was built on a cliff. As far as the eye could see, what appeared in front of them was a mountain peak that rose into the clouds. The clouds were dense and it was like a dream. Chapter 777. 777 Wait on the side. It was said that the 100 venerated mountains was not a plain. It was actually located on top of this dragon vein, but it was completely isolated from the outside world by a peerless formation. There was only one entrance that could be entered. Although the 100 venerated mountain is called the 100 venerated mountains, there are actually more than 100 venerable ones who left their imprints and inheritances. I estimate that there are at least a few hundred of them scattered in every corner. Qiao Xian explained. Ha, Lu Ming, it seems like we have to cultivate separately. Let's see who improves faster after a while. Kong Jin laughed. Each of them was good at different things, and the intent they comprehended was also different. Of course, they couldn't cultivate together. In the 100 venerated mountain, they needed to find the most suitable one for themselves in order to improve their comprehension. Similarly, it also required luck. Good. We'll meet here after a while. Lu Ming nodded. Immediately after, the 8 of them split up, each choosing a direction and flying forward. The 100 venerated mountain was huge, with a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles. There were countless peaks, and no one knew which peak or which corner would have a venerable leaving a mark. Moreover, the spiritual qi in the 100 venerated mountains was unimaginably dense. It was several times denser than the dragon vein outside. Lu Ming felt that the density of the spiritual energy here was almost the same as that of low-grade spiritual crystals. What did this mean? It was equivalent to the lower spiritual crystals filling the world. In just one breath, he had absorbed the total amount of spiritual qi contained in several lower spiritual crystals. I don't even need spiritual crystals to cultivate here. Lu Ming sighed. He was really envious of those people from the great aristocratic families. However, now was not the time to cultivate. The most important thing was to find a mark that was suitable for him and comprehend intent. Lu Ming flew all the way. Soon, he found more than 10 people sitting cross-legged on the lakeside. Lu Ming landed and noticed that there was a strong aura in the lake. He sensed carefully and suddenly felt that there was a huge flood dragon in the lake that was pouncing at him. This flood dragon contained a powerful water concept. Lu Ming stood still and let the flood dragon rush past him. What a marvelous water mentality! It contains the spiritual God Realm Master's understanding of the water mentality. It can be combined with one's own body and be used as a reference for enlightenment. Unfortunately, I have not cultivated the water mentality. I'd better find another place. Lu Ming did not stop. He rose into the air and flew into the distance. Following that, he found a few imprints left by spirit god experts, but none of them were suitable for him. What? All of a sudden, Lu Ming noticed a cliff in front of him. There was a deep mark on the cliff that seemed to have been left behind by a sword. This cliff was thousands of meters high. In front of the cliff, there were more than a dozen stone pillars that stood on the ground, level with the cliff. On the stone pillars, there were many figures sitting cross-legged. There were a total of 18 stone pillars, and 17 of them were already occupied. Only one stone pillar was empty, and this stone pillar was the closest to the cliff. Lu Ming flew up and landed on the stone pillar. Wind concept. Lu Ming sensed it and realized that the carvings on the cliff contained a mysterious wind concept, which was exactly what Lu Ming needed. When Lu Ming landed, the people on the other stone pillars opened their eyes one after another. When they saw Lu Ming, their expressions changed slightly. "Brother, I advise you to leave that stone pillar," a young lady said to Lu Ming. "Why?" Lu Ming frowned slightly. "Because that stone pillar has already been reserved by someone. That person has said that no one else is allowed to set foot on this stone pillar," the woman explained. "Oh. Where's that person?" Lu Ming said. "That person is not in the Baizuan mountain now. Perhaps he is cultivating somewhere else." Lu Ming shook his head and smiled. "Since I'm not here, why can't I use it?" Furthermore, the 100 Venerated Mountains is a public area, and I have never heard of it belonging to a single person. Even if he is not here, I can still use it. Lu Ming then sat down cross-legged. "Hee, brat, I might as well tell you. That man's name is Miao Yi, the youngest son of the Miao family." A sneer came from the other stone pillar. "Miao Yi. Miao Yi, 501st on the list of top 1,000 talents." Lu Ming's expression changed as he said. "That's right, hee. So, I advise you to leave. When he comes and sees you up there, you won't have a good end." The young man sneered. "Then we'll wait for him to come." "Leave," Lu Ming said calmly. He had no intention of leaving. You overestimate yourself. When Miao Yi comes, you'll be in for a good time." The young man snorted. Lu Ming did not care about his surroundings. His gaze was fixed on the carved line on the cliff. Slowly, the mark changed in Lu Ming's eyes. It turned into a sword and then into a human figure, dancing in the air. Each sword contained a mysterious concept of wind. Even if it was the same intent, different people would have different comprehensions. How profound was the comprehension of intent of a spiritual God realm powerhouse? Lu Ming could compare it with his own concept and seek inspiration to quickly improve his understanding of the concept. When intent reached level 2, it wasn't something that could be continuously broken through just by using intent crystals. If one used only intent crystals, it was extremely easy to reach a bottleneck, and one would still need to comprehend it. As long as he could combine the intent crystals with his own comprehension, that would be the best way. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Lu Ming had many new insights into the concept of wind. He continued to cultivate. Days passed and another 4 days passed. Lu Ming had been here for 7 days. On this day, Lu Ming was in the midst of comprehending when he suddenly felt a sharp killing intent enveloping him. His eyes moved and looked to the side. A young man in a green robe was walking toward them step by step. "It's Miao Yi, Miao Yi has come. That kid is in trouble." Seeing the person, the surrounding people all let out a low cry. In particular, the young man who had said that Lu Ming was overestimating himself was gloating. "Now, you're going to cry." The young man sneered. Miao Yi was dressed in a green robe, his hands behind his back, his gaze cold as he stepped through the air and appeared not far from the stone pillar. "Kid, who allowed you to sit on that stone pillar? Didn't anyone tell you that I ordered that stone pillar?" Miao Yi looked down at Lu Ming from above. His voice was cold and gloomy, like a venomous bug that was staring at his enemy. It sent chills down one's spine. "I heard about it. When I first came, someone told me that." Lu Ming smiled faintly. "Since someone told you, you still dare to sit on it. Do you not put me in your eyes? Now, roll down from above, give yourself 100 slaps, and then get as far away as you can. I won't hold it against you." Miao Yi ordered, as if he was ordering a servant. Lu Ming shook his head and smiled. This Miao Yi was really overbearing. However, when had he, Lu Ming, ever been afraid of others being overbearing? "Let me ask you, does the 100 venerated mountains belong to your Miao family?" Lu Ming said. "Of course not." Miao Yi said. "Since you're not, what's wrong with you cultivating here? Don't you know that it's a first come, first served basis? If you want it, just wait at the side." Lu Ming waved his hands and said. Chapter 778. 778 Poison Concept. Lu Ming waved his hands casually as if he was dismissing an underling. The people on the other stone pillars were stunned. Lu Ming actually dared to speak to Miao Yi like that. Who was he? In Miao Yi's long and narrow eyes, a vicious glint flickered as he spat out in a cold voice, "Kid, it seems that you still don't understand what I mean. Regardless of whether this place belongs to my Miao family or not, I am the one who said it. It is me, Miao Yi, who said it. Do you understand?" Miao Yi still had his hands behind his back, looking high and mighty. His words were very simple. Regardless of whether this place belonged to the Miao family or not, since he, Miao Yi, had made the decision, Lu Ming had to give him face. If he said that he would occupy this place, then he would occupy it. Lu Ming pursed his lips. How good was Miao Yi's ego? "You? Miao Yi? What dog's hit? Get lost." Lu Ming continued to wave his hands. The others were even more shocked. Lu Ming completely did not take Miao Yi seriously. In the 100 venerated mountains, there were not many who dared to speak to Miao Yi in such a manner. There were many holy places for cultivation in 9 dragons, and the 100 venerates mountain was only one of them, and it was not a high-level one. There were even more advanced and mysterious cultivation holy lands. There were even inheritances left behind by supreme martial artists and even Dao fields of Emperor Path experts. The 100 venerated mountains simply couldn't compare to them. However, if one wanted to enter such a sacred place to cultivate, one would need to be qualified. Miao Yi did not have that qualification yet. Some of the more powerful heaven's favorites would cultivate in those sacred grounds. In the 100 venerated mountains, Miao Yi was considered one of the more famous heaven's favorites. Small Z, you will regret your words. The killing intent in Miao Yi's eyes became even colder. A green light jumped out from his body, covering the sky and the earth as it spread out. Lu Ming actually said that he was dog's hit and told him to get lost. Who was he? He was ranked 501st on the list of top 1,000 talents, and he was the son of the Miao family. On this dragon vein, the Wang family was the most powerful. Under the Wang family, there were three major forces. The Shengguan family was one of them, and the Miao family was the other. Even the heaven's favorites who ranked higher than him didn't dare to talk to him like that. Who does this kid think he is? If you want to fight, then fight. What's with all this nonsense? I still need to cultivate. Lu Ming looked at Miao Yi indifferently. Since you want to die, I'll send you on your way. On Miao Yi's body, a green light shot into the sky, emitting a terrifying corrosive aura. It's the poison intent. Retreat. The other young men's expressions changed drastically, and they quickly retreated, their faces filled with fear. Poison concept, interesting. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. There were thousands of concepts in the world, but it was Lu Ming's first time encountering the concept of poison. Die. With a wave of his hands, a green ray of light mixed with the concept of extreme poison transformed into a green centipede that pounced towards Lu Ming. Peak second level of the spiritual ocean tier. The moment Miao Yi made his move, Lu Ming realized that Miao Yi's cultivation was at the peak of the second level of the spiritual ocean tier, which was more than a level higher than his. Boom! Lu Ming threw a punch. The terrifying force of the exploding star fist pierced through the void and headed toward the green centipede. When the fist force of the explosive star fist collided with the green centipede, a terrifying scene appeared. The fist force actually produced a sizzling sound and was rapidly corroded by the green light. The concept of extreme poison was actually corroding the fist force. Ha! My toxic concept can corrode everything. Even true essence and force can be corroded. You're only at the first level of the spiritual ocean realm, and you still dare to fight me? Die! Miao Yi sneered, and the mist around his body became even thicker. With a palm strike, another green centipede pounced towards Lu Ming. Is that so? Lu Ming smiled faintly and took a step forward. Boom! 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 The sky rumbled 4 times in a row as the 9 dragons' heaven-treading steps were used. A violent force surged out. The 2 venomous centipedes were split apart. You have some ability. Heavenly Phoenix Sky Devouring Palm. Seeing that the 2 centipedes had been dispersed by Lu Ming, Miao Yi's face darkened. His palms turned dark green, and they seemed to be covered with lines. Those were the silhouettes of the centipedes. The surging palm print blasted out with a powerful corrosive power, causing the space to emit a sizzling sound. Miao Yi's concept of extreme poison was a headache for many people. Many who were stronger than him were not willing to face him. However, he had encountered Lu Ming. Lu Ming took a step forward. The 3 intents of wind, fire, and thunder fused and exploded as he struck his palm forward. Boom! Miao Yi's palm print was split apart, but it immediately turned into a green mist that spread out and enveloped Lu Ming. This was a poisonous mist that was filled with strong corrosive properties. Swallow. Lu Ming controlled the 9 dragon bloodline and a powerful devouring force burst out from his left palm. The poisonous mist was devoured by the 9 dragon bloodline as soon as it got close to Lu Ming. Buzz! Lu Ming's figure dashed past Miao Yi, a long spear appearing in his hand. The dazzling spear's gleam pierced towards Miao Yi. What's going on? Miao Yi's expression changed drastically. Lu Ming was actually not afraid of his poisonous concept and was charging straight at him. His figure turned into a series of afterimages in an instant as he rapidly retreated. In the next moment, a cold light bloomed from Miao Yi's hands, and he aimed it at Lu Ming. Wind concept. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. Miao Yi had actually comprehended the concept of wind and had also reached level 2. However, Miao Yi's wind concept did not successfully merge with his poison concept. A ray of cold light was aimed at Lu Ming's neck. Lu Ming's long spear swept out. Clang! The long spear and the cold light collided with a loud bang, and the cold light was bounced away. It was only then that Lu Ming could see clearly that the cold light was not a knife or a sword, but a centipede made of metal. This centipede was similar to a soft whip, but it was more mysterious. It could grow, break, turn, and its attacks were unpredictable. On both sides, there were dense centipede legs. They were as sharp as blades and made a sharp whistling sound as they streaked through the air. Shwa shwa. With a wave of his hand, Miao Yi's centipede-like weapon streaked across the air and headed straight for Lu Ming. Its position was constantly changing, and it let out an ear-piercing screech. With the concept of wind activated, Lu Ming's figure changed rapidly, avoiding the centipede's attack and charging towards Miao Yi. True Dragon Strike. The long spear thrust out, and the three-colored True Dragon roared as it pounced towards Miao Yi. Although Lu Ming had comprehended the fourth intent realm, he had yet to integrate it into the Dragon God's three absolutes. Therefore, his attack was still tricolored. When Lu Ming fused the earth concept into the Dragon God's three absolutes, the three absolutes would undergo a transformation and become a demigod-level martial arts technique. During this period of time, Lu Ming would try it when he had the time, but he had not succeeded. Miao Yi's expression changed, and he quickly retracted his centipede weapon, bombarding it towards the three-colored True Dragon. With a loud explosion, Miao Yi's body trembled as he was forced to retreat. Miao Yi, ranked 501st on the list of top 1,000 talents, was indeed powerful. He could easily defeat those of a higher realm. With his poison intent, even ordinary martial artists at the peak of the 4th level spiritual ocean realm were not his match. Chapter 779. 779 Second level of the spiritual ocean tier. However, when he encountered Lu Ming, the toxic concept was almost ineffective and his combat strength was greatly reduced. Lu Ming did not even use the prison suppressing heaven technique or the earth concept, and he was already completely suppressed. You're acting like you're the number one in the world with your little combat power. You're really shameless. I'm not playing with you anymore. Lu Ming used the 9 Dragons Heaven stomping steps and took a step forward. He approached Miao Yi at lightning speed and struck out with his palm. The prison suppressing heaven art. As soon as he struck out with his palm, Miao Yi's expression changed drastically, because he felt a terrifying pressure. This pressure made him feel apprehensive. Block it. He quickly put away his centipede weapon, which then formed a circle in front of him like a shield. Bang! Lu Ming's palm hit the shield of the centipede weapon. The shield formed by the centipede weapon was instantly shattered. Miao Yi's body trembled violently and he coughed out a large mouthful of blood. His body was sent flying backward like a cannonball. Brat, I won't let you off. Miao Yi bellowed in anger, and turned into a green light, flying off into the distance. He had actually escaped just like that. There was a cold glint in Lu Ming's eyes, but he did not pursue. Miao Yi was, after all, the son of the Miao family's patriarch. Although it was not appropriate for the Miao family's elders to interfere in the young people's conflicts before the Battle of Providence, no one could say for sure if the Miao family's patriarch would go crazy if Miao Yi was really killed. However, if Miao Yi did not know when to retreat, Lu Ming did not mind finding an opportunity to get rid of him. At this moment, the other dozen or so people looked at this scene in shock. Lu Ming had actually defeated Miao Yi, who was ranked 501st on the list of top 1,000 talents. Could Lu Ming be in the top 500? Lu Ming's gaze was cold as he swept his gaze across the dozen of people. Among them, the young man who said that he wanted to see how Lu Ming would cry turned pale. Lu Ming took a step forward and suddenly appeared in front of the young man. You said you want to see how I cry. How was it? Does it look good? Lu Ming asked indifferently. This brother, I was blind. I didn't know you were so powerful, haha. The young man broke out in a cold sweat as he spoke incoherently. Get lost! Lu Ming shouted coldly. The young man's expression turned unsightly, but he didn't dare to refute in the slightest and obediently flew away. Lu Ming continued to land on the stone pillar and began to comprehend. Half a day later, Lu Ming got up and left the place. He had already stayed here for 7 days. That was enough. He needed to find the next imprint. Only by corroborating multiple imprints with each other could inspiration be inspired and collide with more brilliant sparks. A few hours later, Lu Ming appeared in another place. It was a small valley with another mark. This mark contained the concept of fire. Lu Ming comprehended it quietly. At this moment, 2 groups of people were looking for Lu Ming in the 100 Venerated Mountain. On one side was Shengguan Jinjue. He was leading a few young experts from the Shengguan family in search of Lu Ming. Those young experts were all at the 5th level of the spiritual ocean tier. Although they weren't prodigies, being able to cultivate to this realm under the age of 30 wasn't simple either. Their battle prowess was considered high among those of the same level. On the other side was Miao Yi. After he returned to the Miao family, he also gathered a few experts and entered the 100 Venerated Mountains to look for Lu Ming. Lu Ming had no idea about this. He stayed in the small valley for 3 days before he got up and left. He found a secret place and entered the Supreme Shrine. After comprehending wind and fire intent in this period of time, he was now going to use intent crystals to increase his cultivation speed. He sat cross-legged next to the path understanding ancient tree, crushed a wind element intent crystal, and started cultivating. Right now, he still had more than 10 middle-grade wind attribute intent crystals. As he crushed one after another, Lu Ming's intent of wind was improving rapidly. Now that Lu Ming's intent had reached the 2nd level, the speed at which he consumed the profound meaning crystals had greatly increased. In less than a day, more than 10 wind-type profound meaning crystals had been consumed. Then, Lu Ming used low-grade profound meaning crystals to cultivate. Lu Ming consumed the low-grade profound meaning crystals even faster. He used dozens of them and shattered them. 3 days later, Lu Ming had used up more than 10,000 low-grade profound meaning crystals. His wind concept had finally reached the peak of level 2 beginner. He was only 1 step away from level 2 lower tier. However, he was stuck at this step. He had reached a bottleneck. This wasn't something that could be broken through with intent crystals. He could only rely on himself to comprehend it. Putting aside the concept of wind for now, Lu Ming took out the fire-type esoteric crystal and started cultivating. 3 days later, the middle-grade fire attribute profound meaning crystals were all used up. At the same time, he used up a large number of low-grade profound meaning crystals. Lu Ming had also raised his fire concept to the peak of the 2nd level beginning stage. At this point, he had also encountered a bottleneck. Let's go out and look for the imprint to comprehend. After that, Lu Ming left the Supreme Shrine and searched for a suitable mark in the 100 Venerated Mountains. In the days that followed, Lu Ming would refine Earth attribute esoteric crystals whenever he had time. He would find a suitable imprint and comprehend it on the spot. Every few days, his position would change. The 100 Venerates Mountain was filled with mountains and peaks. It wasn't easy to find a single person. Shengguan Jinjue and Miao Yi had been looking for him, but to no avail. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. A month had passed since Lu Ming arrived at the 100 Venerated Mountains. At this time, there was still 1 year and 2 months until the Battle of Providence. Such dense spiritual energy. Looking at the pool in front of him, Lu Ming was a little shocked. He searched for the mark left by the Venerable One in a barren mountain. He passed through a secret crack in a cliff and saw a pool that was completely condensed by spiritual qi. The spiritual energy in the pool had turned into liquid. Lu Ming felt that the spiritual energy in the pool could be compared to that of high-grade spiritual crystals. I can cultivate here and break through to the second level of the spiritual ocean realm. Lu Ming revealed a smile. In this period of time, although his wind and fire intents were still at the peak of the beginning second level, his earth intent had also reached the peak of the beginning second level through cultivating with earth element intent crystals. Only the thunder concept was a little slower, and it had also reached the late stage of level 2 beginning. Now, breaking through to the second level of the spiritual ocean tier was not the slightest bit of a problem. Plop! Lu Ming leaped into the pool, and the 9-dragon bloodline emerged. He opened his mouth and inhaled, and the extremely rich spirit qi of heaven and earth continuously gushed toward the 9-dragon bloodline. It was as if Lu Ming had exploded countless spiritual crystals to cultivate. Lu Ming circulated the true war dragon technique and refined it with all his might, converting it into essential core. Walala! In the spirit ocean, the Zhen Yuan was like waves, constantly rolling. As the spirit qi continued to transform into Zhen Yuan, the Zhen Yuan continued to grow. 3 days later, Lu Ming had devoured and refined all the spiritual energy in the entire pool. Boom! 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 The sound of raging waves crashing against the shore came from his dantian, rumbling and exploding. Waves of terrifying aura emanated from Lu Ming's body. After a while, he opened his eyes. Second level of the spiritual ocean tier. Lu Ming's lips curled into a smile. Intent is still in the middle tier. As long as I can reach the second level lower tier in all 4 types of intent, and have enough spiritual crystals or ori rocks, I can charge into the 3rd level of the spiritual ocean realm in one go, or even the 4th level. Lu Ming smiled, got up, and left. Chapter 780. 780 Lightning Fast Methods. A day later, Lu Ming appeared on a mountain peak. There was actually a huge spear stuck upside down on the mountain peak. The spear was dark red in color, and it was filled with a scorching flame aura. Around the long spear, there were at least 100 figures sitting with their legs crossed. These people were all trained in the fire concept. Lu Ming asked around. It was said that this long spear was a weapon used by an expert at the peak of the spiritual god realm. The long spear was broken because he had a great battle with someone. That expert then stuck the broken long spear upside down here. However, this spear still contained the fire concept that the powerhouse had comprehended. It had not dissipated even after thousands of years. It could be said to be a holy land for cultivating the concept of fire. Lu Ming sized up the place for a while, then chose a place and sat cross-legged. However, he did not notice that not far away from Lu Ming, there was a young man who was carefully sizing him up. His eyes were flickering. Recently, Shangguan Jinjue and Miao Yi have been looking for a young man. Shangguan Jinjue just came here a few days ago, and from their description, he looks very similar to this man. Hehe, if I pass the news to Shangguan Jinjue and Miao Yi, I'll probably get a lot of rewards. The young man sneered. He took out a voice transmission jade talisman and sent out 2 messages. Shangguan Jinjue was standing on a mountain peak with his hands behind his back. Suddenly, his expression changed and a jade talisman appeared in his hand. With a sweep of his mind, a cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Brat, I've finally found you. Let's go. With a flash, he disappeared. In the sky above a mountain range, Miao Yi was flying with a few people. Suddenly, a voice transmission jade talisman appeared in his hand. After scanning it with his mind, a sinister expression appeared on his face. Brat, I've found you. I'll see how you die for offending me. Then, Miao Yi led a few people and headed in the direction of Lu Ming. Lu Ming studied it quietly. The owner of the spear was extremely powerful. His comprehension of the concept of fire had also reached an astonishing level, which was a great inspiration for Lu Ming. Lu Ming felt that his fire concept could break through the bottleneck at any time and enter the realm of level 2 lower tier. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had been cultivating here for a day. All of a sudden, Lu Ming felt a terrifying killing intent. A sharp sword chi was coming at him. Lu Ming did not hesitate at all. His body flashed and he moved a few meters away. Puchi. A sharp sword chi struck the spot where Lu Ming had been sitting cross-legged, creating a bottomless hole. The others nearby were also shocked. They all ended their cultivation and appeared in the sky. Although they had comprehended the fire intent here, each of them had split a part of their attention to observe the surroundings. After all, they had to be on guard against others. After Lu Ming moved a few meters away, his figure flashed and he appeared in the air. His cold eyes swept in one direction. It was a tall young man wearing a starry robe. He had an extraordinary aura. Behind him, there were 3 young men in their late 20s, all wearing long starry robes. "Who are you? Why did you attack me?" Lu Ming said. He did not know any of these people, but they wanted to kill him. Before the young man in the starry robe could speak, there were already exclamations around him. "It's him, Shengguan Jinjue. He's here again. He came here a few days ago. Could it be to find this person? It can't be wrong. Who was this person? He actually offended the Shengguan family and made the Golden Lord of Shengguan spend so much effort to find him." The words of the people around made Lu Ming come to a realization. He was probably here for Shengguan Wuchen and the others. Why? How dare you injure a direct descendant of the Shengguan family? You deserve to die. Now, I'm here to take your head back. Shengguan Jinjue's eyes sparkled with starlight as he spoke in an overbearing manner. Take my head. Ha ha ha, I've already shown mercy to those guys, but in your eyes, it's a capital crime. It seems that if I don't show some thunderous means, everyone will think that I'm easy to manipulate. Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a cold glint. After he came to 9 Dragons, his methods were much gentler. The main reason was that he had just arrived here, and this place was full of big forces and big families. His strength was too weak, so he decided to keep a low profile and endure it for a while. He wanted to use the cultivation resources in 9 Dragons to quickly improve his strength. But now he found that forbearance was not a solution at all. The more you forbear and the gentler your methods are, the more others will bully you. Ha, what a joke. Who do you think you are? How dare he compare himself with the direct descendant of the Shengguan family? Kill him. Shengguan Jinjue waved his hand, and 3 young men strode out from behind him. Their bodies were filled with dazzling starlight. The bloodline awakened by the Shengguan family's disciples was related to the stars, and there were all kinds of stars. All kinds of star bloodlines appeared above the 3 young men's heads. There was the saber star, the giant sword star, and the flying bird star. Kill! With a loud shout, the 3 young men strode out. Dazzling starlight condensed into a saber, a giant sword, and a flying bird, all of which were aimed at Lu Ming. The 3 youths were all experts at the 5th level of the spiritual ocean tier. If you want to kill me, then be prepared to be killed by me. Kill! Lu Ming let out a long hiss. The essential core in his body exploded and a tsunami-like sound was heard. His palm struck out like a divine monument. Bang! One of the starlight sabers was shattered, and the young man's chest caved in. With a miserable cry, he was blasted to the ground and died on the spot. Who? Immediately after, Lu Ming twisted his body and swept out with his leg. This kick was also driven by the prison-suppressing heavenly art. The giant sword shattered and the body of the young man from the Shengguan family exploded. 2 moves, killing 2 people in a row, the momentum was like thunder. The remaining young man turned pale with fright and counterattacked with all his might, his figure retreating rapidly. Gakudo Path Attack. A ray of spear light flashed past, and a large hole appeared between the eyebrows of the last young man. His eyes were wide open, full of unwillingness. CSI. Gasps could be heard from all around. 3 experts at the 5th level of the spiritual ocean tier were actually killed by Lu Ming in 3 moves. This was too terrifying. The most important thing was that Lu Ming was decisive and merciless. Shengguan Jinjue's pupils constricted. Lu Ming's combat strength was beyond his imagination. I've said it before, if you want to kill me, then be prepared to be killed by me. Now, it's your turn. Lu Ming's gaze shifted to Shengguan Jinjue. Your combat strength is not bad. It's beyond my expectations. That's good. It'll be more enjoyable to kill like this. A cruel look flashed across Shengguan Jinjue's eyes. A violent star power spread out from his body. Ow! On top of Shengguan Jinjue's head, a star wolf howled at the sky, showing its ferocity. This was the star of Ravenous Wolf, a legendary and extremely powerful star. Sky Wolf Slash. A saber appeared in Shengguan Jinjue's hand. He swung the saber, and the wolf howled, filling the sky with starlight. Without a doubt, Shengguan Jinjue had also comprehended the star will. Bang! Lu Ming took a step forward and struck out with his palm. The palm and the blade light met, making a violent roar. Heaven and earth shook violently as the 2 figures separated upon contact. Chapter 781. 781 Killing Shengguan Jinjue. The peak of the 3rd level of the spiritual ocean tier was Shengguan Jinjue's cultivation. Moreover, the martial technique that Shengguan Jinjue had used was obviously a demigod-level martial technique. Shengguan Jinjue was ranked 465th on the list of top 1,000 talents. His combat strength was absolutely terrifying. Boom! After the 2 of them split, they started fighting again. Heavenly Wolf Slash all life. Shengguan Jinjue was bathed in the bright starlight. He was like a god who had descended to the mortal world. His aura was magnificent and powerful. He slashed out with his saber, like a wolf howling at the moon. If they were fighting at the same level, Shengguan Jinjue's combat strength would even surpass Miao Yi's. Every 100th place on the list of top 1,000 talents was a leap and a stage. Shengguan Jinjue was ranked in the top 500, and his combat strength was extremely terrifying. Lu Ming activated the prison-suppressing divine art and the vital essence in his body exploded. Every palm and every punch contained the power to suppress the 9 levels of hell. It was extremely terrifying as he engaged in an intense battle with Shengguan Jinjue. The violent force swept in all directions, causing the surrounding spectators to retreat frantically. A powerful chi blasted towards the mountain peak. However, the long spear that was stuck upside down on the peak of the mountain emitted a red radiance. The powerful chi that flew away was like a stone sinking into the ocean. It did not cause any movement at all. So powerful. Is this the combat strength of the top 500 on the list of top 1,000 talents? It's too terrifying. That's right. The 100th place on the list of top 1,000 talents is a threshold. Who is that person? He can actually fight against Shengguan Jinjue. Cries of alarm came from the surroundings. The most important thing was that Lu Ming's cultivation was only at the 2nd level of the spiritual ocean realm. For a 2nd level spiritual ocean realm to be so powerful was simply terrifying. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them had exchanged dozens of moves. Is this the combat strength of the top 500 on the list of top 1,000 talents? It's indeed powerful, but that's all. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and he suddenly waved his palm. 4 types of lights flashed. Lu Ming's palm contained 4 concepts. Previously, Lu Ming had only used 3 types of intent realm, the earth intent realm, and not an explosion. He also wanted to test the strength of the top 500 on the list of top 1,000 talents. Now that he had found out, it was time to end the battle. Bang! The palm struck down and Shengguan Jinjue's saber light was shattered. Shengguan Jinjue's face was filled with fear as he frantically retreated while holding his saber in front of him. Clang! Lu Ming's palm struck Shengguan Jinjue's saber. It was as if an ancient divine mountain had crashed into Shengguan Jinjue. Shengguan Jinjue's body trembled violently. He spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated rapidly. How is that possible? You were holding back just now. Shengguan Jinjue roared in disbelief. Lu Ming was only at the 2nd level of the spiritual ocean realm. When he fought with him just now, he actually held back his strength. It was simply unbearable for someone as proud as him. I don't need to use my full strength to deal with you. Lu Ming strode forward and struck with his palm. Shengguan Jinjue let out a long howl. Starlight filled the air and the howl of a wolf shook the sky. He wanted to fight back, but Lu Ming's 4 wills were too strong. Even though Shengguan Jinjue's will of stars had already reached the 2nd level advance, it was still vulnerable under Lu Ming's will. Bang! Shengguan Jinjue's body was sent flying. There was a big hole in his chest, and his bones were shattered. He spat out a large mouthful of blood, and his eyes were full of fear. Stop, you win this battle. We'll fight again another day. Shengguan Jinjue shouted and quickly retreated, trying to leave. What a joke, who wants to fight you another day? You can come and go as you please, what do you take me for? Since you've come today, don't leave. Lu Ming used the 9 dragons heaven stomping steps and moved forward at top speed, his eyes cold. You want to kill me, but you have to understand that if you kill me, you'll have to wait for the Shengguan family's crazy revenge. Shengguan Jinjue said coldly. He had actually threatened her. That's my business, you don't have to worry about it. Lu Ming's gaze was calm and he was unmoved. Today, he was determined to kill Shengguan Jinjue. The disciples of the major aristocratic families were all the same. Today, under the watchful eyes of the public, Lu Ming had killed 3 young men from the Shengguan family and defeated the Shengguan Golden Jew. Even if he let the Shengguan Golden Jew go, he would still seek revenge. He might as well kill him to end the matter. Seeing this, Shengguan Jinjue was truly afraid. He understood that he had met a ruthless person. Run, run, run. Shengguan Jinjue fled into the distance. However, how fast was Lu Ming's 9 dragons heaven stomping steps? After a few steps, he caught up to Shengguan Jinjue. His palm was like a divine monument, and he continued to press down. Shengguan Jinjue bellowed in anger and tried to fight back with all his might. The next moment, one of his arms was crushed. Die! Lu Ming's palm was aimed at Shengguan Jinjue's head. Miao Yi, along with a few other young men, rushed towards Lu Ming's group at top speed. We're almost there. This time, I'm going to make that kid face a life and death dilemma. In Miao Yi's eyes, a crazed killing intent kept flashing. There's a huge battle ahead. Suddenly, he heard a rumbling sound coming from the front. Let's go and take a look. Miao Yi brought a few young men and increased their speed, flying forward. He did not fly far before he saw Shengguan Jinjue running away in fear. A man was chasing after him. That's Shengguan Jinjue, and that kid. Miao Yi's pupils rapidly contracted. The next moment, he saw Shengguan Jinjue scream in pain. Lu Ming's palm struck him without any hesitation. Bang! Shengguan Jinjue's head exploded like a watermelon. Miao Yi's eyes almost popped out of their sockets, and he almost bit his tongue. Shangguan Jinjue had been killed by Lu Ming with one palm. After Lu Ming killed Shangguan Jinjue with a single palm strike, he extended his hand and took Shangguan Jinjue's storage ring. He then devoured the blood essence and looked at Miao Yi with a cold gaze. "You've also brought people to kill me." Lu Ming's tone was cold and filled with murderous intent. Miao Yi's heart trembled, and he felt cold sweat breaking out on his back. He hurriedly said, "No, no, why would I? I just happened to pass by, Brother is really brave, this younger brother admires you. Goodbye, goodbye now." Miao Yi cupped his fists, an ugly smile on his face as he turned around and left. What a joke. Shangguan Jinjue's combat strength was much stronger than his. He was also the Shangguan family's peerless pride of heaven. His status was also extraordinary. Lu Ming had even killed Shangguan Jinjue. He would most likely not show mercy to him. He was simply a ruthless man. He was not afraid of the forces behind them at all. He no longer had the thought of killing Lu Ming. He only wanted to get as far away from Lu Ming as possible. Miao Yi left as if he was trying to escape. A smile hung on the corner of Lu Ming's mouth. He did not pursue him. As expected, if you were ruthless, others would be afraid of you. The other young powerhouses in the surroundings were also extremely shocked, and their feelings were extremely complicated. Shangguan Jinjue, the famous heaven's favorite in the eastern barren land, had died just like that. Now, the battle of Providence had yet to begin, and there were already peerless geniuses dying one after another. When the battle of Providence officially began, how tragic would it be? How many geniuses would die then? At that time, the strong would become stronger and step over the corpses of the weak to reach the peak. Lu Ming's figure flashed as he kept the storage rings of the other members of the Shangguan family and devoured all the blood essence. He then flew to the mountain peak where the spear was stuck upside down. He sat cross-legged and began to refine the blood essence. Chapter 782. 78200 Supreme's Pagoda. This time, there were 3 5th-level spiritual ocean tier and 1 3rd-level spiritual ocean tier martial artists' blood essence. It was even more majestic, and the power of the blood essence was even purer. At the same time, all of them surged towards the prison-suppressing steel bloodline. This time, the refinement took a day. In a palace of the Shangguan family, a terrifying aura and killing intent came out. What did you say? Jin Ju was killed. By that kid called Lu Ming. A deep roar sounded, containing endless anger. The owner of the voice was Shangguan Zhongyuan, the father of Shangguan Wuchen and Shangguan Wuling, an elder with real power in the Shangguan family. Shangguan Wuchen, Shangguan Wuling, and a skinny man stood beside Shangguan Zhongyuan. Their faces were pale, and they were sweating profusely. They knew that Shangguan Zhongyuan was furious. He was extremely furious. Shangguan Jinjue was killed. Among the Shangguan family's younger generation, Shangguan Jinjue was the second most powerful heaven's favorite. There was only one person who was stronger than him. The Shangguan family had high hopes for such a genius. In the future, he would definitely become the Shangguan family's pillar of support. It was a pity that he had died just like that. How could Shangguan Zhongyuan not be angry? Lu Ming, he must die. After a moment of silence, Shangguan Zhongyuan uttered a cold sentence. But father, there are people guarding the 100 venerated mountains. People over the age of 30 can't enter at all. How can we kill that little bastard? Shangguan Wuchen said. Among the younger generation of the Shangguan family, there was no one else who could compete with Lu Ming except for one person. However, that person was cultivating in another holy land of a higher level and could not disturb him. Only the older generation could kill Lu Ming. However, the elders could not enter the 100 venerated mountains. Moreover, they did not dare to brazenly send their elders to kill Lu Ming. He could only do it secretly. He can't possibly stay in the 100 venerated mountains forever, wait for him to come out. Shangguan Zhongyuan's eyes were as cold as ice as he continued, send someone to monitor the 100 venerated mountains. Inform me immediately after that kid comes out. Yes. The skinny man said. Lu Ming cultivated beside the long spear for an entire day before he managed to refine all the blood essence. However, the prison-suppressing steel bloodline had not advanced. But this time, Lu Ming had a feeling. He felt that he was not far from the divine level. It was a wonderful feeling. He could feel that the prison-suppressing steel was not far from being promoted. Lu Ming revealed a look of anticipation. Once the prison-suppressing steel was promoted to the divine level, his combat power would definitely be greatly improved. Furthermore, it was said that there was an even more powerful use of the divine bloodline. It was not as simple as a burst of power. It would greatly increase one's combat power. The sovereigns who had awakened divine bloodlines were also known as divine-level sovereigns. According to the records, the top 300 on the list of top 1,000 talents were all god-level talents. In other words, the top 300 on the list of top 1,000 talents had all awakened the third bloodline, which was a divine bloodline. Without awakening a divine bloodline, there was no way he could compete with those geniuses. Lu Ming pondered for a while. He took a deep breath and stood up. He planned to leave this place and changed to another place to cultivate. Brother, may I know your name? At this moment, a young man walked to Lu Ming's side, cupped his fists and smiled. Lu Ming frowned slightly. This brother, I can see that your combat strength is strong and you are indeed a dragon among men. I am interested in befriending you. I am Chu Zhongshuan. The young man continued. His eyes were very pure, and he didn't seem to have any other thoughts. Chu Zhongshuan, 586th on the list of top 1,000 talents. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows. Ha, it's just a small name, it can't be compared to you, brother. Chu Zhongshuan laughed. I'm Lu Ming. Since Chu Zhongshuan was so forthright, Lu Ming was not a pretentious person. He smiled. Could it be the strongest esper on the Heavenly King list, Lu Ming? Chu Zhongshuan's eyes moved as he said. If there isn't a second Lu Ming who also topped the Heavenly King ranking, it should be me. Lu Ming touched his nose and said. No wonder Brother Lu is so strong. With your combat power, you should be able to pass the Tower of 100 Talents. You might even get a token to other higher cultivation holy lands. Chu Zhongshuan sighed. Tower of 100 Supremes. A token that leads to a higher cultivation holy land? Lu Ming had some doubts. It seems like Brother Lu doesn't know yet. Chu Zhongshuan was a little surprised. He explained to Lu Ming briefly. There were many cultivation sanctuaries in 9 Dragons, and the 100 Venerates Mountain was just one of them. It was just an ordinary one. There were also some cultivation holy lands that were even more wondrous than the 100 Venerated Mountains, and the effects were even better. However, some of those holy lands required a large amount of resources, so the number of people who could enter was extremely limited. Some holy lands were only open to the top of the list of top 1,000 talents. After all, resources were limited. They could only be given to stronger geniuses so that they could achieve better results in the Battle of Providence. It was said that the top 100 on the list of top 1,000 talents had been sent to a secret place by Martial Emperor De to cultivate in seclusion, waiting for the Battle of Providence. If one wanted to enter a higher cultivation holy land, other than those famous and top-ranked heaven's favorites, there was another way, and that was to obtain the qualifications. In some ordinary cultivation holy lands, there would be some testing grounds. For example, the 100 Supremes Pagoda in the 100 Supremes Mountain. As long as they passed it, there was a certain possibility of obtaining a token to a higher cultivation holy land. Some of the geniuses who cultivated in the 100 Supremes Mountain would often go to the 100 Supremes Pagoda. There's actually such a place. Lu Ming's heart palpitated. The effects of the 100 venerated mountains were still quite good if one's cultivation level was lower. However, as one's cultivation level increased, the effects would become weaker and weaker. It would naturally be better if one could go to those more mysterious places to cultivate. Brother Lu, do you want to go? Why don't we go together? I was planning to go and try it out. Chu Zhongshuan said. Alright, let's go together. Lu Ming said. Then, the two of them left the place. Chu Zhongshuan had been there before and was familiar with the way. He brought Lu Ming in the direction of the 100 venerated mountains. A few hours later, a tall tower appeared in front of them. It was a stone tower that occupied a large area and was so tall that it reached the clouds. The two of them flew over and landed below the stone tower. There were a few other young men below the stone tower, and they all looked up. Lu Ming also raised his head and looked up. The stone tower had a total of 10 levels. At this moment, the first 6 floors were all shining with light, while the last 4 floors were pitch black. On the way, Chu Zhongshuan explained the situation of the Tower of 100 Supremes to Lu Ming. The Tower of 100 Talents did not test one's cultivation, but the intent realm of heaven and earth. There were 10 levels in the Tower of 100 Supremes. As long as one could make it to the 9th level, they would be able to obtain a token that would lead them to a higher cultivation holy land. Every time he passed a level, the Tower of 100 Talents would light up. At this moment, the first 6 floors were lit up, indicating that someone had made it to the 6th floor. At this moment, the light on the 7th floor also suddenly lit up. Wan Xiongfei has already reached the 7th floor. Could he possibly reach the 8th floor? It's hard to say. However, the 100 battle intent realm of the Wan family is indeed terrifying. Under the Tower of 100 Supremes, the others were discussing in low voices. Chapter 783. 783 Breakthrough of Intent Realm. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. The Wan family, one of the 6 ancient aristocratic families, was named Wan Xiongfei. He was ranked 432nd on the list of top 1,000 talents, and was even more powerful than Shangguan Jinjue. Obviously, Wan Xiongfei had already reached the 7th floor. Boom! 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 At this moment, a violent sonic boom came from the sky. A scorching aura spread towards Lu Ming and the rest. Everyone looked back and saw a burly figure in the sky flying toward them at an extreme speed. His body was covered in purple flames, like a purple sundae. It's the Wang family's sky-burning flames. Someone exclaimed. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the person approached the 100 Supremes pagoda, but he had no intention of slowing down. His entire body was like a meteorite, smashing towards them. Not good, dodge. The others were shocked and retreated. Lu Ming frowned and stood still. Ha, get lost. The Wang family member laughed and smashed down. Brother Lu, get out of the way. Chu Zhongshuan pulled Lu Ming to the side. Boom. The Wang family members stomped heavily on the spot where Lu Ming had been standing. The earth rumbled, gravel flew, and cracks appeared on the ground. Wang Kong. It's Wang Kong. Someone exclaimed. Wang Kong, 430th on the list of top 1,000 talents, was 1 rank higher than Wan Xiongfei. Wang Kong landed on the ground and cast an unfriendly glance at Lu Ming. Just now, Lu Ming did not want to dodge and that made him a little unhappy. The Wang clan. Lu Ming muttered. He thought of Jian Filiu. Jian Filiu should have arrived in 9 Dragons. He wondered if he had gone to the Wang family. If he had the chance, he must find the Wang family and ask them about it. Hee, that guy, Wan Xiongfei, actually made it to the 7th level. It seems like his 100 battle intent has improved a little. However, I'm afraid it won't be that easy to make it to the 8th level. Wang Kong chuckled. Sure enough, not long after, a ray of light flashed on the 7th floor. A figure appeared and was bounced out. It was a burly young man. He was wearing armor and exuded a powerful fighting will. Hee, Wan Xiongfei, it seems like you have failed. Wang Kong sneered. Wang Kong, I've failed. You might not be better than me. After saying this much, Wan Xiongfei didn't stay any longer, and soared into the sky and left this place. After Wan Xiongfei came out, all the lights in the Tower of 100 Supremes had been extinguished, which meant that there was no one inside. Wang Kong snorted and strode toward the 1st floor of the tower. There was a light door at the bottom of the 1st floor of the Tower of 100 Supremes. Wang Kong disappeared after he stepped through it. Brother Lu, let's go and have a try. Chu Zhongshuan said. Many people could enter the Tower of 100 Talents at the same time. Lu Ming nodded and stepped into the light door with Chu Zhongshuan. At the same time, a few other people also stepped into the light door. The moment Lu Ming entered the door of light, he appeared on a platform. What? As soon as he entered, Lu Ming realized that the essential core in his body could not be circulated at all. Even his mental energy fire could not be circulated. He could only erupt with the intent realm of heaven and earth. Whoosh! A flaming saber was formed and slashed at Lu Ming. This flaming saber was formed by the fire concept, which was equivalent to the early stage of the beginning of level 2. With a single thought, Lu Ming's concept of fire burst out and condensed into a long spear of flames, which he stabbed at the flaming saber. With a bang, the flaming saber was destroyed. A door of light appeared in front of the platform. This first stage is really easy. Lu Ming smiled and walked into the door of light. The next moment, he appeared on another platform. At this time, if one were to look from the outside of the Tower of 100 Supremes, they could see that 3 floors had already lit up, indicating that someone had made it to the 3rd floor. This time, another flaming saber was formed on the platform. However, the fire concept contained in this flaming saber had already reached the peak of the 2nd level. It was on par with Lu Ming's current flame concept. Lu Ming only cast a kind of flame concept and condensed a long spear to fight against the flaming saber. Buzz! Whoosh! The spear and the saber kept clashing, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. It's purely a battle of intent. Not bad. This can temper my intent and make it stronger. Lu Ming pondered and focused on controlling the concept of fire to fight against the flaming saber. Lu Ming's current concept of fire was at the peak of the 2nd level beginner, which was equivalent to the flaming saber. The two of them kept clashing. At this time, 5 floors of the Tower of 100 Supremes had already lit up. This meant that someone had made it to the 5th floor. What a fast speed! That should be Wang Kong. He has already reached the 5th floor. I wonder if he can make it to the 9th floor. The 9th floor is unlikely. Even Wan Xiongfei has only made it to the 7th floor. I think Wang Kong will most likely be stuck there as well. There were still a few people watching and discussing under the tower. Lu Ming burst out with the concept of fire and fought with the flaming saber. After more than 100 rounds of fighting, Lu Ming felt that he was becoming more and more familiar with the use of the concept of fire. His long spear danced and he had the upper hand. After a few moves, he defeated the flaming saber. Although Lu Ming's fire concept had not broken through the bottleneck and reached level 2 lower tier, he felt that it was one step closer. After destroying the flaming saber, another door of light appeared in front of him. Lu Ming stepped into it and the next moment, he appeared on the platform of the 3rd level. This time, a golden combat sword appeared. It was formed by the metal mentality, and it had reached the initial completion of level 2 mentality. It seemed that the will that appeared in the Tower of 100 Supremes was random, and it was not fixed on a specific will. Whoosh! The golden combat sword was incomparably sharp as it stabbed toward Lu Ming. Boom! At this moment, Lu Ming released two concepts. The two intents of wind and fire combined to form a long spear. After a few moves, it destroyed the huge golden sword. Lu Ming continued and entered the fourth level. On the fourth level, it was still a golden sword, but the strength of the metal mentality had reached the peak of level 2 lower tier. Lu Ming used the wind and fire concepts to fight. After exchanging dozens of moves, he defeated the golden sword and entered the fifth level. And at this time, there were already people who failed to pass the round and were ejected. The seventh floor also lit up at this moment. Someone had made it to the seventh level. At the bottom of the tower, the others raised their heads to see if the eighth floor would light up. However, after a while, the seventh level flashed and a figure flew out. It was Wang Kong. Damn it, just a little bit more and I'll be able to make it to the eighth level. Wang Kong growled. As soon as Wang Kong came out, he saw that the light on the seventh floor of the tower was extinguished, but the lower 6 floors were still lit. In less than 2 minutes, there was a flash of light on the 6th floor and a figure appeared. It was Chu Zhongshuan. He had made it to the 6th floor and was ejected. The light on the 6th floor was extinguished, but the 5 floors below were still lit. There's still someone on the 5th floor. Wang Kong looked at the Tower of 100 Supremes but did not leave. At that moment, Lu Ming was on the 5th level. A green ring appeared on the 5th level. It was condensed by the wind concept and had reached the stage of level 2 upper tier. Lu Ming still only unleashed 2 intense wind and fire. He tried his best to resist, but he was completely at a disadvantage. However, Lu Ming was not in a hurry. This way, he could train the wind and fire concepts, especially the wind concept. He could also use it as a reference. Chapter 784. 784 The 10th Floor. Lu Ming did not hope to achieve any merits, but he hoped to not make any mistakes. He focused his mind and unleashed the wind and fire concepts to resist with all his might. Although every attack would make the long spear condensed by Lu Ming's wind and fire concept tremble as if it would collapse at any time, Lu Ming would block it every time. Lu Ming blocked and comprehended. Outside the Tower of 100 Supremes, everyone was watching. What's going on? Who was it? Why are you on the 5th floor for so long? It's the person who came with Chu Zhongshuan. I don't know his name, but I guess he can only reach the 5th level at most. That's why he was stuck there for so long. If you can't pass, then come down earlier. There are other people who need to go in. Don't waste their time. At this moment, there were others who had just arrived and snorted coldly. Boring. Wang Kong curled his lips contemptuously. Just as he was about to leave, his eyes moved. The others were also stunned. Because of this, the 6th level of the Tower of 100 Supremes suddenly shone. Lu Ming had reached the 6th level. After enduring for so long, he's finally reached the 6th floor. I guess the 6th floor is his limit. I bet he'll be ejected from the 6th floor in less than a minute. But before he could finish, he stopped abruptly. That was because the 7th level had also lit up. It had only been a few breaths since the 6th floor had lit up, and the 7th floor had already lit up. Those people under the Tower of 100 Supremes couldn't help but open their mouths. The few people who said that Lu Ming's limit was the 6th level and that he would be ejected in less than a minute were so ashamed that their faces turned red. This face-smacking was too fast. The 7th floor was already the highest floor that Wang Kong had reached, and now, someone else had reached it. Interesting. Wang Kong stepped back and stared at the Tower of 100 Supremes. The 7th floor stopped again. The 8th floor did not light up for a long time, and no one came out. In the Tower of 100 Supremes, Lu Ming felt that he had trained enough on the 5th level and once again unleashed the thunder mentality. He fused the 3 types of mentality and instantly defeated the green ring, entering the 6th level. The intent realm of the 6th level was equivalent to the peak of a second-grade minister. Lu Ming only needed a few breaths to defeat it and ascend to the 7th level. Therefore, the time it took for the 6th and 7th floor to light up was only a few breaths. The 7th level had a complete level 2 concept. A long lightning spear formed by lightning shot towards Lu Ming. He was fast and ruthless. He appeared in front of Lu Ming in an instant. Lu Ming controlled the 3 concepts to resist the lightning spear. This time, the battle lasted for more than 10 minutes. Ha! My thunder concept has finally reached the completion of the 2nd level's initial stage. In the process of the fierce battle with the lightning spear, Lu Ming had an epiphany and cultivated the thunder concept to the peak of the 2nd level beginner. The power of the fusion of the 3 intents increased again, and it destroyed the lightning spear in one fell swoop. 7th level, passed. Lu Ming passed through the door of light and stepped into the 8th level. When Lu Ming stepped onto the 8th level of the Tower of 100 Supremes lit up. Under the tower, everyone could not help but widen their eyes. Lu Ming had actually reached the 8th level. Terrifying. In that case, Lu Ming's comprehension of intent realm had already surpassed that of Wan Xiongfei and Wang Kong. Amazing. Lu Ming is indeed amazing. Chu Zhongshuan secretly praised. Intent realm doesn't represent all of one's combat power. Although this person's intent realm is not bad, his combat power might not be that strong. Wang Kong coldly snorted. No one said a word. They knew that Wang Kong had been surpassed and were unhappy. They just raised their heads and looked at the Tower of 100 Supremes. Would he be able to charge to the 9th level? They couldn't help but look forward to it. The 8th level of intent was the peak of the complete level 2. Lu Ming had 3 types of intent and was no match for it. Therefore, he unleashed the earth intent. As soon as the earth intent was used, the 4 intents combined and crushed him. Lu Ming ascended to the 9th level. The 9th level is lit up. Someone has reached the 9th level. Amazing, amazing. As long as he performs well on the 9th level, he might be able to get a token that leads to a higher cultivation Holy Land. The 9th level is extremely difficult to pass. We have to do our best. The better we perform, the more likely we'll be able to get the token. At the bottom of the tower, everyone's eyes were wide open as they stared at the top of the tower, at the 9th level. Let's see when someone will be ejected. The intent of the 9th level had not been raised to the 3rd level. If it had been raised to the 3rd level, there would be no need to compare. A 3rd level intent could completely crush a 2nd level intent. 9 combat swords appeared on the 9th floor. Blue, red, gold. It was actually the 9 commonly seen intents. Each of them condensed into a combat sword and stabbed toward Lu Ming. The 9 combat swords formed a sword array. Boom! The 4 intents fused and formed a 4-colored battle suit on Lu Ming's body. It covered his entire body and even his face. At the same time, he wielded a long spear and attacked with terrifying power. Lu Ming realized that the mentalities that appeared in the Tower of 100 Talents were the 9 common mentalities. Therefore, those who cultivated special mentalities would have an advantage here. This was because special mentalities were more powerful and mysterious. For example, the Earth concept was the strongest of Lu Ming's 4 concepts. When it was combined with the other 3 concepts, the power that erupted was also the most terrifying. Bang! 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 The sounds of collision rang out continuously. Bang! A combat sword condensed from the will of Mountain was first defeated by Lu Ming. After one combat sword was defeated, the power of the remaining 8 wills was much weaker. Then, one combat sword after another was defeated by Lu Ming. Soon, all 9 combat swords were defeated by Lu Ming. A door of light appeared in front of the platform. Is that the entrance to the 10th floor? Lu Ming muttered. According to Chu Zhongshuan, it was very difficult for ordinary people to pass the 9th level. It was already not bad to be able to make it to the 9th level and even persist for a period of time. On the 9th level, 9 types of commonly seen wills condensed into 9 combat swords, forming a sword array. Furthermore, they were all at the completion of level 2. An ordinary person would not be able to pass it. Lu Ming was the only one who had fused 4 intense and a powerful earth intent that could pass. Then, what would be on the 10th floor? Lu Ming stepped forward and stepped into the door of light. Outside the tower, when Lu Ming stepped into the door of light that led to the 10th level, all the lights on the 9th level suddenly went out. All the lights in the tower were extinguished. The light is gone. That person has failed. They did not know Lu Ming's name. That's not right, why isn't he out yet? Usually, after failing, you'll be ejected. You wouldn't have died inside, right? I don't think so. I've never heard of anyone in the Tower of 100 Supremes dying. I'm waiting. However, an hour had passed in the blink of an eye and Lu Ming had not come out. 2 hours later, Lu Ming had not come out. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed but Lu Ming had not come out. Everyone was speechless. What was going on? Did he really die inside? However, the others wanted to go in but couldn't. This meant that there were still people inside. Chapter 785. 785 Chapter 785 Token acquired. What's going on? Chu Zhongshuan was also a little anxious. He was worried that something had happened to Lu Ming. Chu Zhongshuan, who is this man who came with you? Wang Kong's eyes turned to Chu Zhongshuan, and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. He is Lu Ming. Chu Zhongshuan said after a moment of silence. It was just a name, there was nothing to hide. Lu Ming. Who is it? You don't even know Lu Ming. It seems like you've been in seclusion for too long. I heard that the first place on the Heavenly King ranking this year is called Lu Ming. So it's him. Some of the people at the scene had heard of Lu Ming's name before, while some had not. Lu Ming, it's him. Wang Kong's eyes were even sharper, as if there were flames burning in them. Of course, he had heard of Lu Ming. During the Battle of the Heavenly King list, several of the Wang family's elites had died, and they were all killed by him. I'd like to see what's going on with this 100 venerated pagoda. How many days can you stay in there? Wang Kong sneered. He appeared on a huge rock not far away and sat down cross-legged. In fact, Lu Ming himself was a little surprised. When he stepped through the door of light and appeared on the 10th floor, he discovered that there were 2 old men sitting cross-legged on the 10th floor. The 2 old men were dressed in gray robes, and they did not seem to be emitting any aura at all. They were just like 2 ordinary old men. Of course, Lu Ming did not really think that they were 2 ordinary elders. It was impossible for ordinary elders to be here. The only possibility was that the other party's cultivation was so deep that he could not sense it at all. When Lu Ming appeared, the 2 elders' gazes fell on him, and they looked surprised. Interesting. He has comprehended 4 kinds of intent and has successfully merged them. This is very rare. One of the old men said. It's more than rare. I've never seen anyone who has fused 4 wills and can still cultivate to the 2nd level. Well, I've seen someone who has fused 3 wills. Another old man said. Lu Ming of the junior generation greets the 2 seniors. Lu Ming cupped his fists and bowed respectfully. Not bad, little guy. One of them nodded. Senior, may I ask what the test for the 10th floor is? Lu Ming asked. Assessment? No, you've already passed all of them, but since you've reached the 10th floor, we 2 old guys can't not show our appreciation. The eyes of the old man on the left lit up as soon as he finished speaking. It was as if 2 balls of fire were burning. In the next moment, endless flames enveloped Lu Ming. Lu Ming was shocked. He released 4 intents and shouted at the same time, "Senior, what do you mean by that?" "Kid, it's good for you to resist with only fire concept," the old man said. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. These 2 elders were unfathomable. It would be easy for them to kill him. Why did they have to do this? From the old man's tone, there seemed to be another reason. At once, Lu Ming kept the other 3 concepts and only used the fire concept to resist. When the flames controlled by the elder surrounded Lu Ming, he did not feel the slightest bit of heat. Instead, he felt very comfortable. He felt as if he was bathing in the fire concept, and the various changes of the fire concept appeared before his eyes. The fire mentality has such a transformation. Amazing, it's really amazing. Why didn't I think of it? A moment later, Lu Ming's eyes brightened. He closed his eyes and began to comprehend. His perception was completely immersed in the fire concept of the outside world. As for his own fire concept, it changed as he comprehended it. This kid has such strong comprehension. The eyes of the old man on the left lit up and he couldn't help but praise. His comprehension is indeed amazing. He has comprehended it so quickly. But it's not surprising. To be able to successfully merge 4 kinds of intent and cultivate to this realm, even if he had a great encounter, his comprehension is absolutely amazing. The old man on the right said. Just like that, Lu Ming was immersed in cultivation. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. 3 days later, Lu Ming's fire concept suddenly became violent and powerful. His fire concept had finally broken through to the 2nd level lower tier. 3 days to break through the bottleneck. Not bad, not bad. The old man on the left nodded and put away his fire concept. Many thanks for Senior's help. Lu Ming was overjoyed. He knew that the old man had the intention to help him. Kid, don't be happy too early. There's more. The eyes of the elder on the right lit up. He opened his mouth and a strong wind blew. Endless wind concept enveloped Lu Ming. Wind concept. Lu Ming was overjoyed and continued to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. Lu Ming's concept of wind had also successfully broken through and reached level 2 lower tier. Kid, the 2 of us have only grasped these 2 intents. Consider it your reward for passing the level. You'll have to comprehend the other intents on your own. The old man on the right withdrew his wind concept and said with a smile. Many thanks to the 2 seniors. Lu Ming bowed and thanked him again. Oh, and this token. Take it. With your talent, you're fully qualified to go to a higher holy land to cultivate. The elder on the left took out a token and tossed it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming received it and was overjoyed. Wasn't his purpose here for this token? Now, he had finally obtained it. Lu Ming bowed again to express his gratitude. Go. The elder on the right waved his hand and a powerful force acted on Lu Ming's body. With a flash of light, Lu Ming realized that he had left the Tower of 100 Supremes and appeared in the air outside the tower. At the same time, the vital essence in his body was no longer suppressed and could be used freely. Lu Ming circulated his essential core and landed on the ground. Lu Ming has come out. As soon as Lu Ming appeared, someone exclaimed. Lu Ming had actually stayed in the Tower of 100 Supremes for 6 days and then appeared safe and sound. This was somewhat unbelievable. In the past, even if someone cleared the level, they would only get a token, but no one stayed inside for 6 days. On a huge rock not far away, Wang Kong opened his eyes. His eyes were like 2 balls of fire. He moved his body, and his hot breath spread toward Lu Ming. He suddenly landed in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming, what did you experience in there? Speak. Wang Kong asked, his tone filled with command. What did I experience inside? What does it have to do with you? Lu Ming frowned and cast a glance at Wang Kong. Lu Ming, what's with your attitude? If I say it's related to me, then it's related to me. Also, did you get a token that leads to a higher cultivation holy land? Hand it over. Wang Kong coldly rebuked. Idiot, get out of my way, you're blocking the way. Lu Ming was really speechless. Who did Wang Kong think he was? Other people might be afraid of him, but Lu Ming had come so far. Who had he been afraid of? Lu Ming, don't think that you can be arrogant in front of me just because you've ranked first on the Heavenly King list and your will of heaven and earth is stronger. Let me tell you, the Heavenly King list is a joke in my eyes. Although you've passed the Tower of 100 Talents, your will of heaven and earth can't represent your combat power. I advise you to hand over the token obediently before I do anything to you. Wang Kong's eyes turned cold. Chapter 786. 786 Chapter 786 Battling Wang Kong. Around them, the others watched quietly. They knew that Wang Kong was going to snatch Lu Ming's token. It was up to Lu Ming to deal with it. Chu Zhongshuan wanted to say something, but he hesitated. He wanted to speak up for Lu Ming, but the Wang family was powerful. If he stepped in, he might get himself into trouble. He pondered for a while and did not say anything in the end. Get lost, good dogs don't block the way. Lu Ming had completely lost his patience. His expression turned cold and he berated coldly. You're looking for death. Wang Kong's eyes turned completely cold. His body was covered in blazing flames. The terrifying temperature twisted the space. Boom! He took a step forward, his hand was like a heavenly blade, and he slashed at Lu Ming. Get lost! Lu Ming also struck out with his palm, activating the prison-suppressing heaven technique. Bang! Their palms met and a buzzing sound was heard. Lu Ming's body swayed slightly while Wang Kong took 2 steps back. The rocks where his feet stepped on were vaporized by the terrifying temperature, leaving 2 dark holes. A battle in the air. Lu Ming rose into the air and appeared high in the sky. Kill! Wang Kong's killing intent surged, and the temperature of his body became even more terrifying. He circulated the Wang family's sky-burning flame art to the extreme. At the same time, his extreme purple heavenly fire bloodline burst out, making Wang Kong look like he was about to turn into a ball of fire. His aura was many times stronger than Wang Ju's when he was still a peak king tier. Wang Kong's cultivation was also at the peak 3rd level of the spiritual ocean tier. Raging flames burning the heavens. Burning extermination slash. A saber appeared in Wang Kong's hand. The saber was also covered in flames of terrifying temperature. What is this? The fire concept has evo-levered, the burning concept. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. Wang Kong's talent was indeed worthy of being ranked 430th on the list of top 1,000 talents. He had actually evo-levered his fire mentality into the more terrifying burning mentality. The essence realm of heaven and earth was not always the same. It didn't mean that just because one had comprehended the concept of fire, it was the concept of fire. Some geniuses with terrifying talent could achieve evolution on the basis of this intent realm and evolve into an even more terrifying intent realm. As for what kind of intent realm they could evolve into, everyone was different, and it would depend on themselves. For example, the 9 common intents might seem to be the weakest, but they also had the most infinite possibilities. For example, the fire concept could evolve into countless types of concepts related to fire. Many of these concepts were extremely powerful and far surpassed the fire concept itself. The burning concept was one of the types of concepts that had evo-levered after the fire concept. Whoosh! A terrifying saber gleam slashed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's body exuded 4 different intents, which merged with the prison-suppressing heaven technique. He threw a palm at Wang Kong. Boom! In the sky, there was a terrifying roar. The clouds were torn apart, and 5 colored lights filled the entire sky. This time, Lu Ming's figure only swayed a little, while Wang Kong took 9 steps back. How is that possible? Wang Kong's eyes were filled with shock. He had already used all his strength, but he was still pushed back by Lu Ming's palm. It was unbelievable. He was a heaven's favorite of the Wang family. The sky-burning flames skill he cultivated was a god-grade technique. In addition, his intent realm had evolevered and he had comprehended the burning intent realm. Furthermore, his bloodline martial technique was also extremely powerful. It was also a demigod-level martial technique. It could be said that he had no shortcomings at all. In a battle of the same level, he was not afraid of anyone, except for a few extremely rare geniuses or divine-level geniuses who had awakened divine bloodlines. But now, Lu Ming was of a higher level and had defeated him. When had he ever been forced to retreat by someone of a higher level? Damn it! Die! Wang Kong bellowed. The flames on his body roared as if they were going to burn the world. Is there any use in shouting? Lu Ming took a step forward and swung his palm at Wang Kong. Boom! The two exchanged blows, and Wang Kong retreated again. To be honest, Wang Kong was very strong. He was even stronger than Shengguan Jinjue. When Shengguan Jinjue was facing Lu Ming, he was completely suppressed and killed in a few moves. Wang Kong, on the other hand, was still able to block it, though he was also at a complete disadvantage. Bang! 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 After a dozen moves, Wang Kong was completely suppressed. No matter how much he roared, it was useless. Bang! In the end, Wang Kong was sent flying thousands of meters away by Lu Ming's palm. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Lu Ming, just you wait. Wang Kong roared and turned to leave, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming did not pursue him. Wang Kong was strong, extremely strong. If he was determined to leave, Lu Ming would not be able to kill him unless he used the Tao of Inscription and cooperated with him. The surrounding people looked at Lu Ming in shock. Lu Ming had actually defeated Wang Kong. Furthermore, he had defeated someone of a higher level. It was truly terrifying. Brother Lu is really amazing. I admire you. Chu Zhongshuan walked over, his face still filled with surprise. You're welcome, Brother Chu. I need to find a place to cultivate in seclusion, so I'll take my leave now. Lu Ming cupped his fists and left. Some of them were left with a belly full of questions. They were guessing whether Lu Ming had obtained a token that led to a higher cultivation holy land. After flying tens of thousands of miles, Lu Ming landed on a mountain peak. He entered the Supreme Shrine and 5 to 6 storage rings appeared in his hand. These storage rings were obtained from the enemies he had killed during this period of time, such as Shengguan Jinjue and the others. All of them were above the spiritual ocean tier, and there were even those at the 5th level of the spiritual ocean tier. There was also Shengguan Jinjue, a prodigy. The things inside were very rich. Just the supreme spiritual crystals alone were worth 800 million. There were even dozens of middle-grade intent crystals, but they were of all sorts. In addition, there were many martial arts, spirit weapons, and pills. It was a pity that there were no raw gemstones. However, Lu Ming was satisfied. Now, his 4 intents had all reached the peak of the 2nd level. Even his wind and fire intents had reached the 2nd level lower tier. He could continue to devour spiritual crystals to improve his cultivation. However, 800 million spiritual crystals would not be much of an improvement. One should know that Lu Ming had consumed more than 800 million spiritual crystals in the process of breaking through to the spirit ocean realm from the martial king realm. Furthermore, he had cultivated a super spirit sea. If Lu Ming wanted to increase his cultivation, the energy consumption would be even more terrifying. Bang bang bang. Piles of top-grade spirit crystals were devoured and Lu Ming began to refine them crazily. 100 million, 200 million. Not long after, Lu Ming had refined 600 million out of the 800 million supreme spiritual crystals. His cultivation had only risen to the peak of the second level of the spiritual ocean realm. The remaining 200 million was not enough to break through to the third level of the spiritual ocean realm. Hence, Lu Ming did not continue devouring. However, his cultivation had advanced to the peak of the second level of the spiritual ocean realm, and it had also increased Lu Ming's essential core by a large margin. In his spirit ocean, his essential core was surging. At this moment, a spiritual herb appeared in Lu Ming's hand. It was a level 6 spiritual herb. It had been a long time since Lu Ming cultivated his physical body. Now, it was time for him to cultivate properly. He activated the 10,000 spiritual combat body and began to refine spirit herbs and cultivate his physical body. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Lu Ming had refined more than 26th-level spiritual herbs and improved his physical body to the perfected 7th level in one go. However, to break through to the 8th level, it was possible to do so with spirit herbs that were above the 7th level. Chapter 787. 787 Fatty and Ruantingting in danger. After a few days of cultivation, Lu Ming's abilities had improved a little. He ended his seclusion and continued to look for the marks to comprehend the concepts. Half a day later, Lu Ming sat cross-legged beside a huge stone axe, quietly comprehending. The intent realm that this stone axe emitted was the Earth intent realm. There were not many people who could comprehend the Earth essence realm now. There were only 5 people around the stone axe, including Lu Ming. The position of the dragon's head was the center of the dragon's vein. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth was so dense that it had even turned into fog, floating between heaven and earth. There was even the will of heaven and earth permeating the area. It was obvious that there was a Tao eye in the dragon vein. It was very easy to comprehend the will of heaven and earth here. The Wang family, one of the 6 great ancient families, was located here. In one of the Wang family's courtyards, Wang Kong stood beside a slender young man who was wearing a cloud pattern. There was no trace of arrogance on his face. Instead, there was respect and fear. Wang Kong, you're saying that Lu Ming might have obtained a token that leads to a higher cultivation sanctuary? The young man spoke. His voice was not loud, but it was filled with dignity. Brother Vast Heaven, that's right. Lu Ming made it to the 9th level and stayed there for 6 days. It's highly possible that he has obtained a token. Wang Kong answered honestly. Oh, that's very likely. I must get that token and use it to enter the blood pool to form my 3rd bloodline. Wang Kong, go get it for me. The young man's eyes lit up. The young man's name was Wang Haotian, ranked 356th on the list of top 1,000 talents. Although his ranking was only a few dozen places higher than Wang Kong's, they were not even on the same level. The top 300 were known as God-level prodigies. Wang Haotian was in the top 400, close to the top 300. He was a quasi-god prodigy who was about to awaken his 3rd bloodline. Once the 3rd bloodline was awakened, and it was a divine bloodline, one would be a divine-level genius. It was a pity that Wang Haotian didn't get the token to go to a higher holy land when he reached the 9th floor of the Tower of 100 Talents. Wang Kong knew that Wang Haotian wanted to get the token and go to a higher cultivation holy land, the blood pool. He wanted to accumulate the power of his bloodline and condense a divine bloodline. Therefore, when he knew that Lu Ming might have a token, he must get it. Brother Haotian, that Lu Ming is extremely powerful. I couldn't take him down in the last battle. Wang Kong's expression changed slightly. Hee, I see. No wonder you've come to find me. It's fine. You just have to say my name, and I don't think he'll dare to refuse. Go. Wang Haotian waved his hand. All right. Wang Kong nodded and left. Lu Ming stood by the stone axe. He spent 5 days in comprehension. Lu Ming had gained a lot. He felt that the earth concept could break through to level 2 lower tier at any time. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly turned his head and looked in one direction. A young man walked over. Wang Kong. Lu Ming, I've finally found you. Wang Kong coldly said. What's wrong? A defeated opponent is looking for a beating again. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Hearing this, the other 4 people around the stone axe were shocked. Did Wang Kong really lose to this young man? Wang Kong's face darkened as the wound was mended. I'm not the one looking for you this time. You've heard of Wang Haotian, right? Wang Haotian, a quasi-god prodigy, ranked 356th. Lu Ming's expression changed. That's right. He asked me to come and take your token. Hand over the token. Wang Kong coldly said, his tone filled with threat. Ha ha ha. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly burst out laughing. What are you laughing at? Wang Kong's face darkened. I'm laughing at your Wang family. As one of the 6 great ancient families, it's simply a disgrace. You don't have the ability to get it, so you want to get it from others without putting in any effort. Who was Wang Haotian? If he wants it, tell him to come and get it himself. Lu Ming laughed out loud, his tone full of disdain. How dare you, Lu Ming? You dare to insult the Wang family? No one can save you. Wang Kong roared. Why don't we try? Lu Ming's eyes were as sharp as a blade. He exuded a powerful aura and took a step forward. Boom! Heaven and earth rumbled, and a powerful aura emanated from Lu Ming's body. Wang Kong's expression changed. He quickly retreated and shouted, Lu Ming, just you wait. With that, he quickly left. You cowards! Lu Ming shook his head and continued to sit cross-legged beside the stone axe. However, just as he sat down, Lu Ming's expression changed. A voice transmission jade talisman appeared in his hand. He scanned it with his mind and his expression changed slightly. It was Qiao Xian who had sent him the message. She seemed to be in a hurry and was looking for Lu Ming. She wanted to meet him somewhere. Lu Ming's brows furrowed slightly. He stopped cultivating and flew toward the address that Qiao Xian had left behind. A few hours later, Lu Ming saw Qiao Xian. Lu Ming, Fatty, and Tingting are in trouble. Qiao Xian said anxiously when she saw Lu Ming. What? What's going on? Lu Ming's expression changed. It's like this. Immediately, Qiao Xian explained everything she knew. It turned out that after entering the 100 venerated mountains, Kong Jin had been cultivating with Ruan Tingting. Everyone knew what Fatty was thinking. However, he didn't expect that some time ago, Ruan Tingting had obtained a great opportunity. She had actually obtained the inheritance of a peerless master from an imprint. That inheritance was actually a god-grade cultivation technique. Many people were shocked by this. The prodigies of the Luan family, one of the 6 great ancient families, were nearby. They immediately forced Ruan Tingting to hand over the divine-grade cultivation technique. Ruan Tingting naturally refused to hand it over, and then the Luan family made their move. This time, Kong Jin had defeated the prodigy of the Luan family in the beginning. However, the Luan family had sent out even more people. Kong Jin was no match for them, so he had to escape with Ruan Tingting. Now, they were trapped in a cave. Tingting and Fatty didn't send us any news. They must be afraid of implicating us. I only heard about it because this matter is getting bigger and bigger. Right now, Fatty and the others are in danger, so I thought of you. Qiao Xian said. Chaos, damn it. There was a sharp glint in Lu Ming's eyes. The Wan family and the Wang family were really jackals of the same lair. They thought that they were high and mighty and that they could take other people's things as they pleased. Lu Ming, I've also heard that Tingting's legacy is deeply engraved in the soul and can't be passed on to outsiders. Once it's passed on, the soul will explode and the person will die. Lu Ming said. Qiao Xian said anxiously. Do you know where Fatty and the others are trapped? Bring me there. Lu Ming's eyes flickered with a cold light. It's at a place with a mark. It's quite a distance from here. Let's go. Lu Ming and Qiao Xian rose into the air and disappeared. Hoo. The fat man walked forward, gasping for air. His entire body was covered in blood. It was all his own blood. He held his battle axe and blocked the entrance of a cave. Wan Tingting was in the cave. The walls of the cave had been marked by a peerless expert, which made the rocks of the cave extremely hard and indestructible. Chapter 788. 788 Battle at the entrance of the cave. It was also because of this cave that they were able to block the Wan family's attack. This time, the Wan clan had sent out 3 Heaven's favorites. Of the 3 Heaven's favorites, 2 of them were in the top 500. One of them was ranked 420th and he was extremely strong. In addition, there were still 8 young experts at the 5th level of the spiritual ocean tier. Although Fatty had successfully broken through during this period of time and reached the 2nd level of the spiritual ocean tier, he was still not a match for them and was injured by so many people joining hands. If it wasn't for the fact that the cave's entrance was narrow and could only allow one person to attack at a time, Fatty wouldn't have been able to block it at all. He had already been here for 2 days and 2 nights. The chaotic family took turns to attack him, and his injuries were getting more and more serious. But he couldn't fall. For Tingting, he couldn't fall. Outside the cave, the elites of the Wan family surrounded the cave with cold eyes. Lu Ming had seen one of them before. He was a Wan Xiongfei, ranked 432nd on the list of top 1,000 talents. The other person was called Chaotic Tianhao, ranked 420th. Fatty, I advise you not to put up any unnecessary resistance or else you'll suffer. Wan Xiongfei said coldly. I've already said that when I received the inheritance, there was a restriction. I can't pass it on to anyone else. Once I do, my soul will explode. Even if you want it, I can't give it to you. Wan Tingting's voice could be heard from the cave. Hee, of course, we know this. However, as long as you return to the Wan family with us, we will naturally have a way to extract the inheritance from your soul. Wan Xiongfei sneered. Do you think I'm stupid? If you're not careful, your soul will be destroyed. Even if you're lucky, you'll end up with an idiotic ending. Kong Jin shouted angrily. Hee, that will depend on her own luck. Wan Xiongfei sneered. A god-grade cultivation technique is so precious that it's not something you can control. You'd better obediently follow me to my house. Wan Tianhao said coldly. Dream on. If you have the ability, come up and fight me, and see how I chop you up with my axe. Kong Jin roared like an injured beast, and a wild aura filled the air. Not far from the cave, many people were watching, but no one came forward to say a word. What a joke, who would dare to interrupt and interfere in the affairs of an ancient family? He could only blame his bad luck for being targeted by an ancient family. You're really looking for death. Wan Xiongfei's killing intent exploded. This damn fatty was even more difficult to deal with than they had imagined. He had actually blocked the entrance of the cave. It had already been 2 days. They had taken turns to attack, but they could not break through the fatty's defense. If it wasn't for this cave, Fatty wouldn't have been able to withstand many of their attacks with his injured body. Fatty, forget it. Just hand me over to them. Wan Tingting's eyes welled up with tears as she looked at Fatty's bloodied body. She didn't want to mess up her family. She wasn't willing to do so. She hadn't avenged her parents yet, but the power of the ancient family was too strong. What could she do? Don't say any more. That's impossible unless I die. Kong Jin's tone was firm. Wan Tingting sighed. At this moment, she really hated herself for being useless. If you want to die, I'll grant you your wish. Wan Xiongfei strode forward and rushed toward the cave. Come on. The fatty grinned, and his eyes revealed a fierce light. He raised his battle axe and began to fight with Wan Xiongfei. Boom! Boom! Terrifying chi shot out in all directions, but there were marks on the stone walls of the cave that glowed. All the chi shot out was like a stone sinking into the ocean. The two of them exchanged over 100 moves. After that, Wan Xiongfei retreated, his face dark. This fatty's battle strength was simply too strong, and his endurance was also too strong. He actually couldn't break through his heavily injured body. Ha ha ha, Wan Xiongfei, Wan Tianhao, you can't even deal with a heavily injured person. How about this? Leave this place to our Jiang clan. What do you think? At this moment, a loud laugh could be heard as more than 10 figures stepped through the air. When he saw who had arrived, Wan Tianhao's expression changed, and he said in a deep voice, Jiang Taiyu, is that you? What is the Jiang family doing here? Wan Tianhao, a god-tier cultivation technique has appeared, and everyone has a share. You Wan clan can't be thinking of keeping it for your slaviers, right? Jiang Taiyu smiled faintly. You guys also want a god-grade cultivation technique? We, the Wan family, found that girl first. Wan Tianhao said with a cold expression. So what if you found it first? I gave you a few days and you still can't settle it. Who can you blame? It's our Jiang family's turn. Jiang Taiyu said with a smile. Wan Tianhao and Wan Xiongfei had unsightly expressions on their faces. Jiang Taiyu was ranked 419th on the list of top 1,000 talents, one rank higher than Wan Tianhao. Moreover, there were two other geniuses among the Jiang family's people. There were 3 geniuses in total, and they were not weaker than them at all. In fact, they might even be stronger. The two sides were instantly at daggers drawn. How about this, we'll bring that little girl back first and let the elders of the two families discuss it. What do you think? Wan Xiongfei said. All right, I have no objections. Jiang Taiyu said. I don't have any objections either. Now, it's your Jiang family's turn to attack. As long as you can get rid of that fatty, everything will be easy. Wan Tianhao said, nodding. They reached an agreement. At the entrance of the cave, Fatty grinned. In the cave, Wan Tingting's eyes were filled with despair and her face became even paler. It was obvious that she had been injured before, and it was not a light injury. Let me kill this fatty. Jiang Taiyu strode forward, his eyes like lightning. Let's see who you'll behead. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded out, and an enormous force field descended with a loud bang. Xian Yanqing stepped through the air. Little Qing, quickly leave. The fatty's expression changed as he shouted. Xian Yanqing was definitely no match for the Jiang family and the Wan family, the 6 prodigies, and more than a dozen young experts at the 5th level of the spiritual ocean tier. Shut up. Mind your own business. Xian Yanqing shouted. He did not stop as he stepped forward. His body was surrounded by a black light. His black dress fluttered in the wind, making him look like a demoness. What a beautiful girl. It's not bad to bring her back as a concubine. Jiang Taiyu's eyes lit up with a hint of passion. Bang! In the next moment, Jiang Taiyu moved. Like a peerless divine weapon, he broke through the sky demon force field and charged towards Xian Yanqing. Destruction cut. Xian Yanqing said softly. In the sky demon force field, the space twisted and a terrifying cutting force exploded. Jiang Tao's expression changed suddenly. His body glowed with black light and he slashed forward like a divine weapon. Buzz! Buzz! Jiang Tao's arm collided with the destructive cutting power, making a sound of gold and iron colliding and sending sparks in all directions. Interesting, but you're still far from being able to stop me with this. Jiang Tao's eyes glowed and his body suddenly moved. It was as if he had transformed into a sword, a slender sword of assassination, a sword of a poisonous snake, and he began to swim in the sky demon power field. The sharp sound of something breaking through the air resounded through the sky. Whoosh! Whoosh! The Jiang family's immemorial divine weapon technique was extremely wonderful and could refine people into divine weapons. The sword chi was extremely sharp, breaking through the demonic force field and cutting through the destructive force. It was headed for Xian Yanqing. Chapter 789. 789 Gathering. The Hand of the Heavenly Devil. Xian Yanqing pressed down with one hand again, and a beautiful arm formed. It descended like the arm of a supreme demon and pressed down on Jiang Taiyu. It was clear that Xian Yanqing's cultivation had also improved and reached the second level of the spiritual ocean tier. The palms seemed to have locked onto Jiang Taiyu. Jiang Taiyu could not avoid it in the field of the heavenly demon. Jiang Taiyu's expression changed slightly. His palm was like a sword as he slashed out. Clang! Jiang Taishu's hand clashed with Xian Yanqing's demonic hand. Xian Yanqing's demonic hand was defeated, but Jiang Taishu was forced to take 3 steps back. So strong. Everyone in the surroundings widened their eyes. Jiang Taiyu was ranked 419th on the list of top 1,000 talents. His cultivation had already reached the limit of the 3rd level of the spiritual ocean tier. Yet, he was defeated by Xian Yanqing, who was only at the 2nd level of the spiritual ocean tier. Good, very good. Little girl, you've successfully angered me. Jiang Taishu's eyes were cold. The dark light on his body became even more intense, and a sharp aura emanated from him, tearing the space apart. At the same time, a black iron sword floated above his head. The iron sword was thin and long, like a poisonous snake. The 9 Esilavirar chakras were shining brightly. This was Jiang Taiyu's bloodline. Back then, Jiang Taishu's bloodline was a mountain, and the mountain was filled with all kinds of weapons. However, Jiang Taiyu's bloodline was different. It was only a sword, but it was purer. An extremely sharp artistic conception emanated from Jiang Taiyu's body. It was a vast sword power. Sword concept. That's the sword concept. Someone exclaimed. The sword concept was also an evo-levered concept. It was evo-levered from the metal concept. Those who had awakened weapon-type bloodlines such as swords and sabers were the easiest to comprehend the creation of metal. As for the metal mentality, it could evolve into the sword mentality, saber mentality, spear mentality, and so on. For example, the sword mentality, combined with the sword-type bloodline and the corresponding sword techniques, was extremely terrifying. Kill! Die! Jiang Taiyu shouted. His arm was like a sword, slashing out. The extremely sharp sword chi slashed forward, as if it could cut through all obstacles. The sky demon force field was torn apart in an instant. The demonic lotus throne. At this moment, Xian Yanqing frowned slightly and pressed his hands again. This time, a lotus platform appeared in the air. The lotus platform was black and a black petal flew out. It was extremely sharp and confronted Jiang Taiyu's sword chi. Buzz! A sharp sound rang out, and the two of them cancelled each other out. Jiang Taiyu's expression darkened and he launched a frenzied attack. However, Xian Yanqing was also extremely powerful. For a moment, he was locked in a stalemate with Jiang Taiyu. The others' expressions were grave. Xian Yanqing was too strong. He was only at the second level of the spiritual ocean tier. If she broke through to the third level of the spiritual ocean tier, what would happen? Would he be able to suppress Jiang Taiyu with a flip of his hand? In the blink of an eye, Xian Yanqing and Jiang Taiyu had exchanged dozens of moves, and neither of them had a clear winner. Buzz! With another blow, the two of them were forced back. Let's end this quickly. Why don't we join forces and capture this woman? Luan Tianhao said. Good. Let's attack together. Jiang Taiyu nodded with a dark face. Xian Yanqing's combat power was beyond his expectations. At this moment, Xian Yanqing controlled the Sky Demon force field. Within the force field, she was unbelievably fast and appeared at the entrance of the cave in an instant. Fatty, you heal first. I'll block here. Xian Yanqing said. No, you can't fight against so many of them alone. They're taking turns to attack you. You can't hold them back. You'd better break out alone. Kong Jin said. Shut up. Xian Yanqing said coldly, but he had no intention of leaving. Kong Jin was speechless. Then, he said, why don't we send a voice transmission to Lu Ming and ask him to come over? With the three of us, we should be able to get out of here. Alright, I'll send him a message. Xian Yanqing nodded. He took out a jade voice transmission talisman and sent a message to Lu Ming. Kill. At this moment, Jiang Taishu continued to attack Xian Yanqing. Xian Yanqing was blocking the entrance of the cave, so they had to attack alone. While the battle was going on, Lu Ming received Xian Yanqing's message on the way. He was even more anxious and his eyes flashed with killing intent. Miss Chiao, it's very dangerous over there. Don't go over. I'll rush over and save Fatty and the others first. With that, Lu Ming took a step forward and his speed increased sharply, heading forward. At this time, in the Wang family, in Wang Haotian's courtyard, Wang Kong stood beside Wang Haotian and reported the news. He really said that? Wang Haotian's eyes were filled with killing intent. That's right. Lu Ming is unruly and lawless. He doesn't care about you at all, Brother Haotian. Wang Kong said. Hee, unruly. That's because I haven't met anyone who can tame him. I'll make him bow down to me. Wang Kong, take that trash with the surname Jian and come with me to the 100 Venerated Mountain. I'd like to see how arrogant he can be in front of me. Wang Haotian said, and a cold killing intent filled the air. Alright, I heard that the good-for-nothing with the surname Jian is a good friend of Lu Ming. He actually dared to date a woman from my Wang family. He's really bold. Wang Kong sneered coldly and walked out of the courtyard. Soon, Wang Haotian and Wang Kong were heading toward the 100 Venerated Mountains with a person. Boom! Boom! At the entrance of the cave, the battle had been going on for 3 hours. The 6 elites of the Jiang family and the Wan family took turns to attack Xian Yanqing. No matter how strong Xian Yanqing's true element was, he couldn't hold on any longer. He was sweating and panting heavily. Bitch, let's see how long you can last. Jiang Taiyu was attacking Xian Yanqing again. The storm-like attacks made Xian Yanqing's Sky Demon force field tremble violently. It seemed that it was difficult to maintain it. Boom! Boom! The two of them exchanged dozens of blows, and Xian Yanqing's breathing became heavier. Bitch, I'll destroy your cultivation and bring you back to the Jiang family to serve you well. Jiang Taiyu's face turned colder, but the evil fire in his eyes grew stronger. The stronger Xian Yanqing was, the more he aroused his desire to possess him. You won't have that chance. At this time, an extremely cold voice came from the distance. In the sky far away, a spear radiance cut through the void, bringing with it a terrifying sonic boom, and stabbed toward Jiang Taiyu. Jiang Taiyu's expression changed. His palm was like a divine sword as he struck out. Clang! His palm collided with the spear radiance. In a split second, Jiang Taiyou's face changed greatly. With a quiver, he retreated rapidly. Buzz! A figure appeared in the air, holding a long spear. A bone-chilling killing intent emanated from his body. Lu Ming had arrived. Lu Ming, you're finally here. Xia Nianqing whispered. Little Qing, are you alright? Lu Ming turned around and looked at Xia Nianqing. I'm fine. Xia Nianqing shook his head. Ha, Lu Ming, you're here. It looks like your cultivation has improved greatly. This is great. Let's charge out together. Fatty laughed. Fatty, looks like you're not dead yet. Looking at Kong Jin's body that was covered in blood, Lu Ming's eyes turned even colder. Chapter 790. 790 Fighting Two Great Geniuses. I have thick skin and can take a beating. Kong Jin grinned. With Lu Ming here, the three of them would be able to charge out with Ruan Tingting. Lu Ming's eyes were like lightning as he swept a glance at Jiang Taiyou and the rest. He really wanted to go all out and kill these people. However, he also knew that it was more important to take Ruan Tingting and rush over. There would be plenty of opportunities to kill Jiang Taiyou, Wan Xiongfei, and the others. Boy, you're Lu Ming. At this moment, Jiang Taiyou's eyes were cold and sharp. The Jiang family's prodigy, Jiang Taishu, had been killed by Lu Ming during the Heavenly King ranking battle. This news had long spread among the younger generation of the Jiang family. Jiang Taishu was not an ordinary heaven's favorite. In the king's realm, he had only suppressed himself and could enter the Sea of Souls realm at any time. Once he entered the Sea of Souls realm, his cultivation would definitely improve by leaps and bounds, and he might even awaken a divine bloodline and enter the ranks of the gods' favorite. However, he was too ambitious. He had been suppressing his cultivation and wanted to become the first on the Heavenly King ranking to increase his foundation and rise higher in the future. However, he was killed by Lu Ming. The higher-ups of the Jiang family were furious. Among the younger generation of the Jiang family, many of them wanted to kill Lu Ming to gain a righteous reputation. Not bad. Lu Ming replied coldly. Alright, I was just about to find you. Since you've come here yourself, I'll send you on your way. Jiang Taiyou's voice rang out faintly. In the next moment, his figure flashed like a sword of shadows, stabbing towards Lu Ming at an extremely fast speed and from a tricky angle. Lu Ming's lips curled into a sneer. Without even looking, he swept his long spear across. The dazzling spear's gleam emitted a sharp whistling sound and filled the surroundings. Clang! Jiang Taiyou's figure appeared. His palm struck the spear's shaft and bounced back. Then I'll cut you down head-on. Jiang Taiyou strolled forward. Sword will shot up into the sky from his entire body. He was like a peerless divine sword. Whoosh! He swung his palm at Lu Ming. Lu Ming sneered and stepped forward. He extended his palm and struck at Jiang Taiyou's palm. At this moment, the eyes of the people watching the battle flashed. Lu Ming was actually going against Jiang Taiyou with his body of flesh and blood. Was he not courting death? Who didn't know that the Jiang family cultivated the immemorial divine weapon technique? Their bodies were like divine weapons, indestructible, incomparably sharp, and could break anything. He could not even block it with a spirit weapon, but Lu Ming was using his body. At this moment, the members of the Jiang family sneered. They were looking forward to seeing Lu Ming's palm being cut in half. Clang! Lu Ming's palm and Jiang Taiyou's palm collided. It was as if two spirit weapons had clashed. A sharp aura spread out in all directions. Kacha! Then, the sound of bones breaking was heard. Jiang Taiyou's expression changed and he let out a low roar like an injured beast. He retreated rapidly. Everyone's eyes could not help but fall on Jiang Taiyu. To be precise, they fell on his palm, which was bleeding and had been seriously deformed. On the other hand, Lu Ming's palm was unscathed. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. In a head-on confrontation, Lu Ming actually had the upper hand. He had cracked the bone armor of Jiang Taiyu's palm with one palm. How was this possible? Jiang Taiyu was an existence who had cultivated the immemorial divine weapon technique. The people from the Jiang family were the most shocked. They knew better than anyone else that Jiang Taiyu's immemorial divine weapon technique had a profound level of mastery and he had comprehended sword will. His palm was extremely sharp, but now, his spine had been broken by Lu Ming's flesh and blood. This was a huge blow to their confidence. How is that possible? How is that possible? Jiang Taiyu kept growling. His palm was covered in black light and crackling sounds could be heard. It was healing rapidly. Charge out! Lu Ming said to Xian Yanqing and the rest. Charge! Xian Yanqing, Kang Jin, and Ruan Tingting rushed out of the cave. Kill! Lu Ming charged toward Jiang Taiyu. Let's attack together. Kill! Jiang Taiyu shouted. Suddenly, another Jiang family's paragon lunged at Lu Ming. This paragon was also in the top 500 and was extremely powerful. Meanwhile, Wan Tianhao, Wan Xiongfei, and the others charged towards Xian Yanqing. Lu Ming's aura was wild. He circulated the prison-suppressing heavenly art and the true war dragon technique at full force, launching a crazy attack. The members of the Jiang family were like divine weapons, and their limbs were killing weapons. The others could only keep a distance from them, or it would be dangerous. However, Lu Ming cultivated the prison-destructive divine art. His hands and feet seemed to contain the divine monument and could suppress everything. He was also good at close combat. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming's palm struck out and he lifted his leg to kick out. His power was shocking as he fought against the two Jiang family's elites. The rumbling sounds continued. For a moment, he actually suppressed the two Jiang family's elites, which shocked everyone. In the past few days, Lu Ming's cultivation and physical body had improved. Naturally, his combat strength had increased as well. If it were a few days ago, he would not have been able to achieve this. The onlookers in the distance were extremely shocked. Charge out from this side. Lu Ming let out a long hiss, his essential core boiling, and his attacks became more and more violent. Ha, amazing. Watch me. I'll smash it. Dandan stood on Lu Ming's shoulder and laughed heartily. Then, she suddenly leaped out, her four limbs retracted into the turtle shell, and she smashed toward Jiang Taiyu's face. During this period of time, Dandan had swallowed a lot of spirit herbs and recovered a little, and her aura was stronger. Jiang Taiyu was suddenly attacked by Dandan and was hit in the face by Dandan. Clang! Dandan was bounced back and shouted, Nest, what thick skin, I can't smash it. Jiang Taiyu's body was as strong as a divine weapon, but he was still a little dizzy after being hit by Dandan. Lu Ming seized the opportunity and swept his leg out, kicking Jiang Taiyu so hard that he spat out blood and retreated. They were about to break out of the siege. At that moment, a terrifying howl was heard. An extremely sharp aura and cold killing intent enveloped Lu Ming. Danger, extreme danger. Lu Ming felt his hair stand on end. In the distance, an arrow shot toward Lu Ming's back like a stream of light. Fast, it was too fast. Kill. The other Jiang family's paragon launched a frenzied attack at Lu Ming. He wanted to stall Lu Ming. Not good. Lu Ming felt that the person who shot the arrow was extremely powerful and was definitely far more powerful than Jiang Taiyu and the others. He had not expected that such a powerful person would launch a sneak attack and attack Jiang Taiyu and the other person with all his might. It was too late to dodge now. Lu Ming, be careful. Xian Yanqing exclaimed. She used the Sky Demon Force Field to cover her. Within the Sky Demon Force Field, her speed was as fast as lightning. Xian Yanqing's figure flashed and appeared in front of Lu Ming. At this moment, the arrow had already arrived. Xian Yanqing didn't even have the time to launch a powerful attack. He could only use his destructive cutting power to rush toward the arrow. However, the arrow was terrifyingly powerful. It instantly destroyed all the destructive cutting power and shot through the Sky Demon Power Field. Chapter 791. 791 Quasi-God Great Heaven's Favorite. Puchi. The arrow pierced through Xian Yanqing's left shoulder, leaving a bloody hole. The powerful inertia carried Xian Yanqing back. Little Qing. Lu Ming bellowed. After forcing the Jiang family's elite to retreat with a single palm strike, he took advantage of the situation and wrapped his arm around Xian Yanqing's slender waist. He took a step forward and landed beside the cave. Fatty, retreat. Lu Ming roared. Kong Jin didn't go very far with Ruan Tingting, but with a roar, he rushed back. Little Qing, how is it? Lu Ming held Xian Yanqing in his arms and kept injecting his vital essence to seal Xian Yanqing's wound, stopping the blood from flowing out. Fortunately, I avoided my vital parts, so I won't die. Xian Yanqing's face was pale. Now, where can you run to? Jiang Tao's face was cold as he stepped forward. Wan Tianhao and the rest also came over and surrounded Lu Ming and the rest. However, Lu Ming did not even look at them. His gaze was directed in another direction. A young man wearing a black iron battle suit, with a cold gaze, stepped in the air. His body exuded a terrifying aura and a strong will to fight. Chaotic Wind Cloud. It's Chaotic Wind Cloud. Someone exclaimed in shock. Lu Ming and the others are finished. The Wan family actually sent Wan Fengyun. Ranked 350th on the list of top 1,000 talents, quasi-god tier heaven's favorite, Wan Fengyun. The exclamations were getting louder and louder. Lu Ming's pupils constricted. The person who had ambushed him was this person. Fatty, bring Tingting and Little Qing back to the cave. Lu Ming said. Kong Jin's face was solemn as he led Ruan Tingting and Xian Yanqing into the cave. Xian Yanqing sat cross-legged and began to heal. Although the arrow had injured his vital parts, the intent contained in it was extremely powerful. Xian Yanqing's injury was not as light as it looked. Wan Fengyun stepped forward and stood in the air. He said in a calm voice, Wan Tianhao, you're too slow. This matter has already reached Di Tian's Imperial Guards, and they'll soon send someone over to take that woman away. After all, she's obtained Supremacy Longjin's inheritance, and Supremacy Longjin was one of the commanders of Di Tian's Imperial Guards back then. Then what should we do? Wan Tianhao's expression changed. If Di Tian's Imperial Guards were here, then there would be no need for him to mess up the family. The clan head will think of a way to delay Di Tian's Imperial Guards for a day, so he sent me here to capture this woman as soon as possible and bring her back to the chaotic clan. I'm sorry, said Wan Fengyun. He then turned to look at Lu Ming with a cold smile on his face. If you get lost now, you'll live. If you delay, you'll die. Wan Fengyun, I'll definitely kill you one day. Lu Ming ignored Wan Fengyun's words. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Wan Fengyun had almost killed Xian Yanqing. Based on this, Lu Ming had to kill him no matter who he was. Hee, from the moment you said that, you no longer have a chance. I didn't want to fight and only take that woman away. But today, I have to kill you, said Wan Fengyun coldly. He stood high up in the air, his fighting spirit growing stronger. The Wan family cultivated a divine-grade cultivation technique, the 100 Battles technique, and were born to fight. Of course, his combat strength was also extremely powerful. Boom! Wang Fengyun's aura suddenly exploded. His essential core boiled and emitted the sound of stormy waves. His aura was like a divine mountain that pressed down on Lu Ming. The peak of the fourth level of the spiritual ocean tier, this was the cultivation of Wang Fengyun. The peak of the fourth level of the spiritual ocean tier was 2 levels higher than Lu Ming. However, Wang Fengyun was no ordinary martial artist. He was a quasi-god level prodigy, and his combat strength was already incomparably powerful. The essential core in Lu Ming's body circulated at full force. There was a faint blue light shining between his eyebrows. Ha, I didn't expect this place to be so lively. Add me in then. A loud laugh came from afar. As soon as the voice fell, a scorching aura covered the sky and earth. 2 streaks of flames, dragging a long tail behind them, pierced through the void and approached in an instant. Two young figures appeared. Wang Haotian. Wang Fengyun's eyes flashed. At this moment, gasps of shock could be heard from the surroundings. The Wang clan's Heaven's Pride expert had also arrived. Moreover, he was also a quasi-god Heaven's Pride expert. Brother Wan, Supremacy Blue Gold's inheritance has appeared. Isn't it a little too much for your Wan family to want to keep it for yourself? Wang Haotian laughed. Do you think I have to inform your Wang family? Wang Fengyun said, his face dark. Wang Haotian's ranking on the list of top 1,000 talents was only a few places lower than his, but his combat strength was on par with his. It would not be easy for Wang Haotian to get a god-level cultivation method today. It's fine if you don't tell me. We'll rely on our own abilities. Wang Haotian smiled. Lu Ming's gaze swept past Wang Haotian and landed on the person behind him. Wang Kong. In Wang Kong's hand was a pale-faced man who was breathing weakly. Jian Filiu. The person in Wang Kong's hand was actually Jian Filiu. Brother Jian, what did you guys do to him? Lu Ming's eyes were like 2 sharp swords, piercing Wang Kong and Wang Haotian. Are you talking about this good-for-nothing? Wang Haotian smiled and looked at Jian Filiu with disdain. This brat has the audacity to have an affair with a woman of my Wang family. So, I crippled him. Lu Ming's expression changed. No wonder Jian Filiu was so weak. It was because his cultivation had been destroyed. Damn it! Lu Ming shouted in a low voice. After this period of time, Lu Ming had already regarded Jian Filiu as a true friend. Now, Jian Filiu's cultivation had been crippled by Wang Haotian. Lu Ming, don't worry about me. I'm a piece of trash. I can't even save my junior sister. They killed her. You're all animals. All animals. Junior sister is a married woman, and you still want to reward her to someone else, you animals. Jian Filiu's eyes were red as he growled. That Wang Mang fellow is already dead. Our Wang clan isn't going to raise him for nothing. Naturally, we have to make the best use of him. Wang Kong said indifferently, as if he was talking about a very normal thing. Lu Ming had more or less understood what was going on. It must be because Wang Mang was dead, and the Wang family wanted to reward Jian Filiu's junior sister to the other Wang family disciples to play with. Jian Filiu's junior sister must have sent a message to Jian Filiu asking for help, which was why Jian Filiu left in a hurry and came to 9 Dragons. After that, he was naturally discovered. Jian Filiu was right. The Wang clan was a group of beasts. Lu Ming, I heard that you're good friends with this good-for-nothing, so I brought him here. Hee, it seems that you've come at the right time. Wang Haotian laughed. What do you want? Lu Ming said. It's very simple. Hand over the token you obtained from the Tower of 100 Supremes, and then hand over the woman who obtained Blue Gold Venerable's inheritance to me. Then, I'll give this trash to you. Wang Haotian still had a faint smile on his face. He has the token from the Tower of 100 Supremes. On the side, Wang Fengyun's eyes glowed with greed. He also needed the token of the Tower of 100 Supremes. I'll use the token to exchange with you, but it's impossible for you to hand over Tingting. Lu Ming said. If he handed Wan Tingting over, they would definitely strip Wan Tingting of her soul and turn her into an idiot. It was impossible for him to use one person to exchange for another. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.